Some shows talk about one team. Other shows barely talk sports. This show will talk Packers, Brewers, and Bucks every day. It's Wisconsin Sports Daily with Steve Sparky Pfeiffer, served up by Wendy's on the Wisconsin Sports Radio Network. Download the Wendy's app today.
Welcome in. It's Wisconsin Sports Daily. How are you doing? We are broadcasting live from the Wisconsin Sports Radio Network studios, powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook. Another day closer to Packers and Bears Saturday night, 7 o'clock start for that one. And it's going to be fun. And every time I see somebody that is a Bears fan or somebody from Illinois, they're very excited. They're very, very excited about this game. I maybe not as excited as possibly Bears fans are at this point, which is fine. That's okay. But from my perspective, looking at this Packer-Bears game, I really sincerely believe that this has a chance to be a turning point in Bears history more than it does for the Packers. Like there is so many ramifications to the Bears winning this game versus the Packers win this game and they lose the next round. Everybody isn't like mad necessarily, but it's the same old. Not to the Super Bowl again. Just another year going by, wasting a good quarterback play or whatever. That's what it is. The Bears win the playoff game. Even if they don't win the next round, there's going to be a party in Chicago and a huge success. And then you try to carry that momentum in to the next week. Like I've said before, this sincerely is way bigger for the city of Chicago, the fans, the organization, the McCaskey family for certain. Like, there is no family inside the Packers organization that cares less about this game more than any other game. The McCaskey family lives and dies on this rivalry each and every year. So it's even bigger for them. That's why I'm saying, like, if you're going into this game, Ben Johnson is going to have them fired up, ready to go. Big rah-rah speech. Maybe Dan Campbell will write it for him because he's got nothing to do. He's done. Maybe they bring Campbell in to do the rah-rah speech. Who knows? So there'll be that. LaFleur, not giving a rah-rah speech. That's not who Matt LaFleur is. So that's not going to happen. They'll come out. They'll do their thing. They'll go out and play. Going into that game, I think it's going to be key early, especially with that Bear fan base, that they stop any momentum early, weather the early storm of a fired-up Bears team, probably trying to do cheap shot antics again like they did the last time, trying to get under the Packers' skin and trying to get into their head. They've got to be able to overcome that without getting suckered into dumb things and losing a key player throwing a punch early in the game. That, to me, is going to be very, very critical for this Packers team as we're sitting here on Tuesday, and you can just feel it building in Chicago as we get closer.
Oh, 100%. But I think that's also why I'm still nervous. Like, I'm excited for this game as a Bears fan myself, but at the same time, I don't know if I feel confident. I think I'm a little scared that that's how much this means for the Chicago Bears. If they go in and lose this game to the Green Bay Packers, it feels like you just reset everything that has built up this entire season, these past two seasons. If you go out there and lose this game to the Green Bay Packers, I have to sit here for a whole nother year trying to argue with you that the Bears aren't that bad, but you're just going to say they're awful because they lost to the Packers, who are hurt in the first round of the playoffs, even though the Packers are a good team too still, even with all the injuries.
They're not as good.
They're not as good. They're definitely not as good as they were before, but I think they're still a competitive team. I think with Jordan Love on the field and most of their offensive pieces ready to go, that offense has enough to at least help them win a game. And I think that's something that worries me, and more Bears fans should be worried about that. I think there's a lot of Bears fans that are going to this way more confident than they probably should be.
Nah, they should be confident. They should be feeling good about themselves and good about their team, even though they didn't look good against the Lions. They should be full of confidence. They haven't been this good in forever. Like
you're just saying that because you can't wait to crush them if they lose this game. That's the only reason you're saying this.
No, I'm not.
Get super high. Yeah, guys, get super happy and excited so I can tell you you're dumb.
No, that's not true. Listen, I have warned, don't parade around too much until after you get this next game. I said that before, after they won the last game, of, okay, y'all can have fun and make fun of Packer fans and do your thing, but I would just wait because odds are you're going to see each other again. And now you are going to see each other again. And if y'all lose this game, you're going to feel awfully stupid about all the crap you were saying prior to this. That's why I said just play it calm. If you beat them in the playoffs, then you got all offseason to run your mouth at Packer fans. No big deal. No, I'm not being sarcastic about this. I'm being serious. Just like when the Lions finally got good, it was the same thing. Like, hey, man, you should feel good. You should run your mouth. I mean, for the longest time, the Lions and Bears were irrelevant in Packer fans' minds. They could care less. Like, the Vikings were more important. But back when Leroy Butler and Gilbert Brown, those guys played, it was all about beating the guys in purple. That's what it was about. Yeah, we all beat the Bears, but Aaron Rodgers is a quarterback. They never lost to him. It's like, we own you. Literally irrelevant. Like, nah, Packer fans, those are wins. And you just moved on. So now the Lions, recently, they get relevant. Now, they may be headed back the other way, but now the Bears are in that spot. Now they're on the climb, and now they're getting relevant again. So that's okay. It's fine. Everybody should have their time in the sun at some point. No fan base should be horrible for their entire lifetime of a fan. Like, I don't really want to get into the Bucks necessarily because we'll talk some Bucks in the next segment. But last night, I saw Jimmy Haslam, Cleveland Browns owner, Bucks owner, at a press conference talking about how these many wins are unacceptable the last 2 years. Mm-hmm. So I was like, oh, that's interesting. So I went and I looked. He's owned the team since 2012 as Jimmy Haslam. Now this is a Browns fan base. Okay. They have 2 winning seasons since he bought the team. 2 since 2012. Mm-hmm. Both with the guy he just fired.
Mm-hmm.
It's Stefanski.
Coach of the year seasons too.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
Both years. He fired the guy who had 2 down years because of the Deshaun Watson fiasco that he maneuvered at the end of the day, which absolutely torched the franchise. This is the guy that's going to run the Bucks right into the ground. So my point is, when you are a horrible team for that long, like the Browns, eventually, at some point, you would think they're going to rise from the ashes and they're going to be good for a moment in time here over a stretch of time. And that's what's happened to the Bears, and that's what happened to the Detroit Lions. And you would also assume at some point the Packers will go back into misery at some point in the future. Most of my childhood growing up, they weren't good. Now, thankfully, they got good. And once they got good, they've stayed good for 30 years? What is it? Yeah, 30 years. So early 1990s to 2025, that's 35 years. They've been relatively good. That's a long run for any organization to stay consistently at the top of the heap. So from the perspective of Bears fans being excited one way or the other, that's fine. My concern is going into this game is, can you match intensity? Can you stay out of their stuff if they're trying to start with you to get you out of your game? Can you avoid all that? They tried it last game, and Keyshawn Nixon, right? And he's going to be out there again, right? So are you going to be able to control yourself or not? Now, as I stated the last game, and I'll state again, if they take a cheap shot at Love or whatever the case may be, last game they did nothing to retaliate against Caleb Williams. Nothing. After they knocked Love out. If that happens again, there better be retaliation at that point. Because that will now be 2 games in which they've knocked out your quarterback. And again, providing it's dirty, whatever you want to call it. If it's something like that, then yeah, there better be something. Because if you don't do anything again, my God, every time we play this team, it's going to be the same old, same old. Like, you cannot continuously get punked. Now, if it's that crazy crap, dude jumping on top of a bunch of guys, like, on that kickoff or whatever, no, you don't retaliate. That's just stupid stuff. Like, whatever, who cares? Somebody gets shoved out of bounds, whatever. You touch our quarterback wrongly, now we got to do something, right? That is the one situation where I'm okay retaliating. Outside of that, you got to try to maintain your composure, Charlie, and not get in the middle.
Well, and I don't think it can be like the running backs either. As much as I think the running backs would be willing to go out there, I've seen those guys kind of defend. It's got to be the offensive lineman. Somebody's got to get hit by an Escalade if Jordan Love gets hit. Yes. Like, that's how it's going. Andy Belton's got to come over and knock somebody over. Got to have Sean Ryan come be mean after the play, too. And honestly, I think at some point in this game, you guys got to be mean before the Bears get mean, too, a little bit. Push them on the ground, but keep them on the ground. I don't know.
It's not in their DNA. It's just not. Like, that's not who the coach is. That's not who they are. And when you Again, you go back in time, the Packers and Forrest Gregg, yeah, they were all about that. Why? Because Forrest Gregg preached it. Like this, we hate this team. We hate their fans. We want to bury them literally by the end of the game. So, yeah, you got guys running guys out of bounds, over benches, tackling them and stuff like that. Charles Martin wearing the towel and all that stuff. Like, that's what it was. Ditka hated Greg. Greg hated Ditka. And away we go. It doesn't appear we're at that spot for Matt LaFleur and Ben Johnson. I think Ben Johnson's trying to get going with it, and Matt LaFleur simply not engaged.
If they go out there, the Chicago Bears, in this game and have that same kind of mentality and it works and it beats the Packers again, do you think next year Matt LaFleur goes in with a different mentality into these games? It doesn't change at all?
Nope. I don't think you can change somebody who they are. Like, I'll give you an instance or an example. When Michael Redd was here for the Milwaukee Bucks, Michael Redd was a quiet dude. Didn't really talk a whole bunch. And he always said he was a leader by example, right? He's not going to be a rah-rah guy. He's not going to do any of that stuff. And he was here for quite a while. Not going to change him. That's not who he is. Now, Giannis was kind of the same way. But guess what? Doc Rivers and others convinced him that he had to become more vocal. He had to become more of the leader. He bought in and he went with it. Red, you couldn't convince him that was the way that he wanted to go going forward. So it just never changed. I just don't think Matt LaFleur has that in his DNA to ask his team to go play that way. Like, I feel like that's beneath Matt LaFleur to ask a team to do what a Campbell may ask or a Johnson may ask or some of these other guys.
But do you think guys like Jordan Love, who are younger, a Tucker Kraft when he gets healthy again going into next season, a guy who has that type of energy when he plays, do you think those guys can get the other players on this team to have a little bit more of that fighting mentality than a Matt LaFleur can? Yeah, Matt LaFleur can't change, but those players are younger. They're more moldable with their mentalities. Maybe you could change them.
Again, I just use my history, right? So when you had Wayne Simmons on the Packers back in the day, he was a little unhinged at times, right? So he was a little one that would throw fists and do whatever he had to do. When Larry Sanders was on the Bucs, a little unhinged maybe at times, nobody wanted to mess with Larry Sanders because they didn't know how nuts he was. So you didn't mess with Larry Sanders normally. You messed with somebody else. But as soon as Larry got involved, you knew, oh boy, here we go. You don't want to deal with him, right? Draymond Green, to a degree, kind of has that same mentality in the NBA. Now, even Draymond Green's not stupid enough to mess with Larry Sanders or certain other players who he knows are actually going to do something. He messes with the guys he knows aren't going to do anything back to him. Those are the guys he tries to punk. Kevin Garnett, same type of deal. That's who that guy was. It doesn't feel like, to me, this Packers defense has that dude that might be a little bit on edge. I might be willing to push the line a little bit on that side of the ball. Now, from Chicago's perspective, you would know that more than me as far as who those guys are, but I don't feel like Green Bay has one.
No, and Chicago has a ton of guys that just love running their mouths. They love hitting guys or grabbing guys. I mean, you just look at the defensive back room. Jalen Johnson, whenever he's on the field, likes to run his mouth a little bit. Terrell Smith, a couple of seasons now, has been a guy that's been more talkative. I mean, you have a lot of players in that group, but I also feel like that's who the Bears kind of need to be. That's how they get their momentum, by getting in the heads of the team first, scoring right away and scoring at the end of the game. Yeah, it works right now, but really that mind game in the middle, those second two quarters, is how they have gotten into a lot of these wins so far.
He is Charlie Used, C Sparky Fiver with you. It's Wisconsin Sports Daily, served up by Wendy's, live from Wisconsin Sports Radio Network studios, powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook. The topic we had, we never did. We just bantered on and on and on and on about something we never even had on the rundown. So that's kind of how this ends up going at the end of the day. I do want to get into Matt LaFleur coming up here in the next segment that we were going to do right there. Does Matt LaFleur get to use the injury excuse for why things haven't worked out perfectly for him and for the Packers to end this season? Does he get the benefit of the doubt with these many guys hurt? Nicolay Law Talking text line 414-677-1250, 414-677-1250 on the socials at WIS Sports Radio. Welcome in. It is Wisconsin Sports Daily, served up by Wendy. Steve Sparky Fiber with you. Charlie Usen over there, other side of the glass, doing his thing. The question is this. Does Matt LaFleur get to use the injury excuse for why things haven't worked out perfectly this season? I feel like most of you don't want to give it to him. I feel like most of you are like, nope, everybody gets hurt, not a big deal. How many teams lose a dude like this?
And able to spin out of the tackle. Great effort by Mims. I tell you, the Packers defense looks, Parsons is down.
That was non-contact, it looked like, too.
Oh, my goodness.
That's not good. Oh, no. Wow.
Not good. And when that game was over, we did the Green Bay football postgame show, and we talked about probably not going to win another football game at that point. However, those that want to move on from Matt LaFleur don't want to hear that. Those that want to move on from Matt LaFleur, all they want to talk about is, hey, man, everybody gets hurt. Figure it out. Play through it. And don't want to hear about the injuries. I think sometimes you could say injuries can't be an excuse, right? So let's say a team is down 3 starters between offense and defense, but none of the 3 are impact players, right? It's not your quarterback. It's not your pass rusher. It's not your left tackle. Maybe it's a second wide receiver, a corner, and maybe a defensive tackle or something. You're down. And then it's like, hey, man, next man steps up. Let's go. Right? So in this situation, there's way more going on than just 2 or 3 dudes that are hurt and trying to play through that. And you're also talking about the idea that these are impact players that you're down, that you're trying to play through. I mean, Tucker Kraft, best tight end in football, essentially, like we talked about. Micah Parsons, probably top 3 pass rusher in football at this point. Jordan Love misses games with his concussion. You have to overcome that. Malik Willis has been playing hurt through this. You have to overcome that as well. And the defensive line, Devontae Wyatt, he's out. That's killed your run defense. You pick up Riley, he's out. You lost him. It's never ending. Bo Melton has to play in this last game. He leaves. He's dinged up. No matter what you put out there, seemingly every game for the last, 4 or 5 weeks, you keep losing guys to significant injuries, it feels like, Charlie. And then to say, well, Matt LaFleur doesn't get the benefit of the doubt. No excuses. No, come on, man. I don't buy that at all. Nicolay Law Talking text line 414-677-1250, 414-677-1250. Follow us on X and on YouTube, streaming live at WI Sports Radio. If you miss anything, check out the podcast at wisportsradio.com or wherever you download your favorite podcast app.
I think a lot of people get kind of under this kind of Matt LaFleur idea because earlier in the season, they feel like they also didn't have all their pieces. Right. Christian Watson didn't start the year with the team. Josh Jacobs was dealing with all those injuries at the beginning of the season.
He's been playing with a knee injury all year.
And he's playing with it now as well. Yeah, your backup running back room, you didn't feel like the man who should not be named was ever going to get on the field, even though people felt like he could be a huge part of this offense. Your offensive line, Zach Tom was dealing with injuries right away at the beginning of the season. I think they look at the first half of the season and say, well, the Packers did fine during that stretch. What's changed now? And it still comes down to Micah Parsons isn't on the field. Devontae Wyatt isn't on the field. And those 2 pieces for your defense were part of the reason, at least 80% part of the reason for why your defense was as good as it was. And yes, the offense still looks really good. And Tucker Kraft, even not on the field, this offense has looked like it's been able to have those moments where it can still be an explosive group. It's just not enough to carry that defense without their star players when you knew there were deficiencies in the cornerback room before the season start. You knew there was deficiencies outside of your top 2 pass rushers in Michael Parsons and Rashawn Gary at the beginning of the season. You had those issues. Now you see what's wrong when you lose those pieces. It's obvious. You can't blame that on Matt LaFleur 100%.
Ziggy uses the Nicolay Law Talking text line, as you can too, 414-677-1250. The injuries we had were crippling at different points this year. The Packers team has no room to spare anymore. It's like 14 starters missed time at some point this season. Can't lay it all on Matt. That is from Ziggy. Here are going into this last game, okay? These are the players that were on injured reserve going into this last game. Micah Parsons.
Pretty big deal.
Best pass rusher. Nate Hobbs. Cornerback you signed the offseason to do something.
Hasn't played all year, though.
Been hurt all year. But either way, injured reserve. The Nick Neiman, who is out as special teams guy. The guy we don't talk about, who's been hurt his whole career since they drafted him. Kamal Hadden, a guy that had to step up and play. He then gets hurt when he was given an opportunity. He's gone. Zane Anderson, another special teams player, backup safety. He's gone. Christian Welch, another special teams player, another linebacker. He's gone. Donovan Jennings, backup offensive lineman, gone. Elton Jenkins, your starting center, gone. Travis Glover, backup offensive lineman, gone. Savion Williams, draft pick wide receiver, gone. Tucker Kraft, best tight end in football possibly when he went down, gone. John Fitzpatrick, backup tight end, he's gone. Devontae Wyatt, best run stuffing and essentially probably best interior pass rusher on the defensive line, he's gone. Jordan Riley you picked up to help replace Devontae Wyatt, and he's gone as well. That was going into the last week. I don't know what y'all want. My guy Q, who can't stand Matt LaFleur. Go ahead. What do you got?
So Q over there says,
Dugout YouTube chat. You can get in as well.
At WI Sports Radio, what about losing to Carolina and Cleveland before the injuries? What about having terrible special teams for 7 years? What about never closing the deal or being able to overcome any sort of adversity? First of all, Carolina is a playoff team right now, so I don't even really think you can count them as much. They looked a lot better at the end of the season there. I mean, I don't know, that just feels like cherry picking at this point. The Cleveland defense is good. Carolina is good. They were good teams. Those losses don't look as bad right now.
If we look at that Carolina game, I just brought that up to look at randomly here. 26 of 37 in that game for Jordan Love. No touchdowns, interception, and a sack. Josh Jacobs, 17 for 87 in that game for a touchdown. Romeo Doubs, 7 for 91. Watson, 2 for 58. Musgrave, 3 for 34. I mean, they spread the ball around for sure in that game. Xavier McKinney actually had an interception and a forced fumble in that game. And when they lost to Carolina, if you remember, going into that game, I was talking about, hey, man, if you look at their team stats on offense and defense, this team is not as bad as you all are making it out to be. Like, statistically, they are a better football team than anybody wants to give them credit for at that point. And it did not matter because it's like, it's the Panthers. They suck. I don't want to hear about it. Okay, fine. Well, now they're a playoff team. And I know they're not over 500. But regardless, they're a playoff team and a much improved team from what they were last year.
Higher seed than the Packers.
And it's not only that, but they had 8 wins. The Packers had 9. Mm-hmm. And then that tie, obviously, but still, that's a 1-win difference between the two organizations. Looking at it now, don't feel so bad. The Cleveland game, agreed. That sucked. I agree on that. And that was another game where defensively, they ate you for lunch in that game. And defensively, you let Joe Flacco beat you, which, I mean, that shouldn't happen. I mean, I have no excuses for the Cleveland game. But the Carolina game, they were better than what everybody thought they were, and definitely proved that throughout the course of the year. John and Franklin, you're next on the Nicolay Law Talk and text line. Does Matt LaFleur get to use the injury excuse for why things haven't worked out perfectly this season?
Look, it would be ignorant to say it didn't matter because, of course, and the prolific injuries. I mean, there are at points of this season where I was holding my breath every time our receivers caught a ball and hit the ground.
Yep.
You know, it's bordering on paranoia. But at the end of the day, you still got to move forward. And at the end of the day, all those injuries aside, you had that game won in Chicago.
Yep.
I was marveling at how well LaFleur had the team playing. But then what do? You got to turn around and regurgitate on yourself and give that game up. Absolutely give that game away like so many other teams. And to Chicago's credit, I'm not dissing them, but let's face it, the Giants, there were several Chicago games I watched where the opposition just opened the door and just let them right in.
Correct. Yes.
And Sparky, this is Saturday. Okay. I want to see us come out playing hard and playing well with the injuries, just like we did 3 weeks ago. Except this time, I want us to finish the deal. And if we can't finish the deal, I'm sorry. At the end of the day, you're captain of the ship, man. And it's going to fall on you. And that's just reality.
I don't think anything's falling on him, John, at the end of the day. Thanks for the call. I don't. All this nonsense talk I hear constantly. Oh, he's in trouble. No, he's not. No, he's not. He's just not. Like you don't go over the top and sell it the way that Ed Policy did and then come back and go, oh, I was joking. That was a lie. He sucks. I'm getting rid of him. Like, I don't believe that to be true. And I also don't believe that he would get rid of LaFleur and extend Goody. I don't think that's going to be true either. If I was guessing how this is going to play out, that they'll both get like 2-year extensions, both be under contract for 3 years. That'll give them 2 more years to evaluate Goody and LaFleur. By that time, Micah Parsons' deal will be about up. Jordan Love's deal will be about up. And then he can figure out how he wants to approach it going forward as far as, does he want to continue to pay Love? Does he want to continue to pay Micah Parsons? Does he want to reboot this thing and restart this thing with fresh guys at GM and coach? Realistically, looking at what is out there right now, there is nobody out there better than Matt LaFleur that you're going to bring in here and convince me that he's a better coach for the Green Bay Packers going into next season. That guy does not exist. Now, I look at Raheem Morris. He's stunk in Atlanta. Tennessee's interviewing him for their head coaching job. It was horrible. Stefanski getting interviews from after he got released in Cleveland, at least there were 2 years where they were really good. Like, you can justify that. Stefanski has a reputation of being a decent play caller on offense. So, again, there's something there. Raheem Morris, there's nothing. But because there's not a lot of quality candidates out there, he's going to get interviewed right away again.
Matt Eberflus, was just released by the Cowboys yesterday. He's going to get interviews. I guarantee you're going to hear his name in the head coach cycle. It's going to be crazy. But at the same time, it's that blank right now in that landscape. Teams have to interview anybody, and the Packers are kind of lucky with the guy they got.
Let's go to Nate in Mequon. You're next on the Nicolay Law Talk and Text line here on Wisconsin Sports Daily, served up by Wendy's. What's up, Nate?
Hey, Sparky, how you doing?
Good.
I truly, when it comes down to the coaching aspect of everything, like you guys described it perfectly, there is no other coach in the NFL than you would rather have than Matt LaFleur. Kevin Stefanski's probably the next best guess, but at the same time, like, I think if I had to put money on, I would say he's going to Atlanta. Atlanta has a young team. I think that he would really fit the mold of that and kind of what he was doing in Cleveland for a long time. But I think Matt LaFleur is not going anywhere. And I think at the end of the day, the play calling is iffy, but I don't think it all falls on Matt LaFleur. Maybe a little more creative play calling in the front run. But other than that, Matt LaFleur has given us some promise to think about, but he's not going to go anywhere.
I agree with you. Thanks for the call. I got a text message here as well from the 414. Doesn't he really hold all the cards being LaFleur? Because he can get 5 years, 15 to 20 million from any of the 6 job openings if he wants. Yes, absolutely. There's no question. If they cut him, he will not. I'll say this. If he becomes available, somebody else may get fired that right now has a job and thinks they're safe. Mm-hmm. It could happen just like that. Like, hey, we didn't know he's going to become available. You're out. And how much do you want, Matt? And let's figure this out. Absolutely, he holds all the cards. And that's the other thing. Policy could go to LaFleur and go, hey, man, I'll give you 2 years. LaFleur be like, no, you're going to have to give me more per year than what you're offering me. Or I'm just going to play this out, get to free agency as a coach, and then see what I want to do at that point. He does have leverage here, especially because of the Malik Willis development that's happened here over the last couple of years. There is no question he holds leverage in this whole deal. Okay, coming up on the other side, there is a piece on ESPN involving Trae Young of the Atlanta Hawks and different trade scenarios for him, because as it broke yesterday, the Hawks and Trae Young working together on getting him out of Atlanta into somewhere else. Obviously, one of the trade scenarios pitched was one involving the Bucks. It does not involve Giannis, but involves other pieces on this team. I'm just curious to see if you would do it or not. So we'll do that coming up next. Let me talk about my friends over there at the Potawatomi Sportsbook, 2,000 square foot center screen. Over 30 sporting events at one time. You have the Potawatomi Sportsbook kitchen, all kinds of great food. You got all-day brunch, burgers, wings, wraps, salads, you name it, they got it. Homemade desserts and pastries to go along with it. 48 beers on tap, over a dozen different specialty cocktails, 2 levels. You can rent out the second level for different functions if you would like through Potawatomi. It is unmatched. There is not a better sports book in the Midwest, I promise you, than the Potawatomi Sportsbook. And you can reserve your seat online to make sure you don't get X'd out, right? You start talking about playoff football and playoff college football games and stuff like that. That place is going to be packed, right? There's going to be a lot of people there throwing down some shekels and putting some money on this thing. So make sure to reserve your seat ahead of time. Go to potawatomi.com/sportsbook, and then you can reserve your seat. The money that you pay, nominal fee, but it goes towards your food and beverage costs for that night. You're going to spend that money anyhow, so really it doesn't cost you anything, and you can reserve your seat. Check it out today. Again, potawatomi.com. Up next, we'll talk about Trae Young to the Bucks, an offer thrown out there by ESPN. We'll see if you would do it or not. It's Wisconsin Sports Daily, served up by Wendy's, live from Wisconsin Sports Radio Network studios, powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook. Sparky here. Welcome back, Wisconsin Sports Daily, summed up by Wendy. Sparky with you, Charlie using other side of the glass. Still to come, John McNamara, BadgerBlitz.com, part of 24/7 Sports. He'll join us to talk about this Badger portal scenario, just how this has worked out for the Badgers after they lost a ton of guys. They still haven't filled all the roster spots, but they're moving in the right direction. We'll get to him coming up at 3:20. Jack Stern, BrewerFanatic.com. He wrote a big piece today on maybe why some of these staff changes were made for the Milwaukee Brewers. So we'll talk to him about his reasoning on why some of this may have happened coming up at 4:20. And of course, we got to talk about Dan Vogelbach being one of the hitting coaches. I have not, with all due respect to Ricky Weeks, I don't think there was this type of excitement for when Ricky Weeks came back to be on this coaching staff as there seems to be right now for Dan Vogelbach.
I thought it was pretty cool when Ricky Weeks came back.
I thought it was fine, too.
I saw him in the dugout for that first time.
Yeah.
Oh, that makes me think of growing up, again, going to Miller Park when it was Miller Park.
Yeah.
That was a lot of fun. So that was cool seeing him. It's cool seeing Danny Burgers down there, too.
I've never heard anybody call him Danny Burgers.
Really?
No.
Oh,
You said that yesterday, too.
Yeah, that's what I always called him, or what people always called him when he was on the Brewers, too.
Danny Burgers. Huh?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so on ESPN, they have 4 trade proposals. Now that it's become public that the Hawks and Trae Young are working on getting him out of Atlanta in a deal. Yesterday, we talked about the horrendous news that Peter Feigin was stepping down or transitioning, whatever, outside of the president's role for the Milwaukee Bucks. And instead, they're putting a guy in charge who was with the Haslam Sports Group. Yes, he's a Wisconsin native. Yes, he's a Bucks fan. He's like 40, 41, something like that. Not that that really matters. But and as I said yesterday, you couldn't pay me enough to be the guy who was in charge of Giannis leaving Milwaukee. No chance. Still don't know if Feigin left on his own, if Feigin got forced out. Still don't know that. But it's not a good thing if you're looking at this from the outside in as far as the future of this organization. Now with Jimmy Haslam having his fingerprints even more on this organization after he's destroyed Cleveland. And really, in fairness to Haslam, Cleveland's organization was complete trash before he got there too. So it wasn't like that was some, great organization when he took over, but still not a fan. So on ESPN, the thought process is, okay, the Bucks are saying no to everybody calling about Giannis, which is great to hear if you're a Bucks fan, obviously. So they're going to try and help Giannis and get him another player that can score points. So in this trade proposal that ESPN has put out, the Milwaukee Bucks get Trae Young, the scoring guard from the Atlanta Hawks. I feel like he plays out of control sometimes, but either way. The Atlanta Hawks get back Kyle Kuzma, Bobby Portis, Gary Harris, and a 2031 first-round pick. And as you read this deal, Zach Cram, I guess is his guy's name. This deal wouldn't help Atlanta much in the present except to bolster a shallow front court. But the key piece in this potential return for Young is Milwaukee's lone tradable first-round pick, which could be extremely lucrative. In the 2030-31 season, Giannis will be 36. And who knows if he'll even be on the team still. So all of that works out. And once Giannis is gone, the expectation is they're going to be bad for a while, right? So it's not going to be probably a 1 or 2 year fix. Regardless of what you get back, it's just not going to happen. So Trae Young for Kuzma, Portis, Gary Harris, and a 2031 first-round pick. Do you do it? Nicolay Law Talk, text line 414-677-1250, 414-677-1250. On the socials at WI Sports Radio, streaming live on X and on YouTube. And, of course, we're there on Facebook and Instagram as well. This year, he's averaging 19 points, a board and a half, almost 9 assists, and shooting 41% from the field is Trae Young. Now, if you go back to, say, last year, because he's only played 10 games this year. If you go back to last year for Trae Young, 76 games, 36 minutes a night, he averaged 24 points a game, almost 5 turnovers a game, a steal a game, 11 and a half assists a game, and 3 rebounds. Year before that, 25 and a half points. Year before that, 26 points. Year before that, 28 points. So scoring-wise, he's been on a decline since 2021 as far as the amount of points that he puts up on a given on a given night at this point. He is 27 years old. Not 37, 27 years old. Do you do the deal, Charlie Usen?
No, I do not do this deal. First of all, the like biggest key that the Bucks need, the biggest two keys that the Bucks need, Trae Young doesn't fill either of those. He's actually pretty negative at both of those. That's rebounding and that's defense. That's perimeter defense. And he doesn't help you with either one of those things. And then the other problem I have with this deal isn't even how much the Bucks are giving up in it, which I do think they are probably giving up a little too much in this. I think that 2031 first round pick, you can't trade that until it gets a little bit closer. I think that is going to be a valuable pick. I think the value only goes up the longer this whole Giannis drama goes on. Like, that can get more valuable. I wouldn't want to trade that. But then in this trade, you're also not moving on from like a Ryan Rollins or a Kevin Porter Jr. So now you're just going to have a cluster of these three guards that you're going to have to find out how to get a rotation in, which just seems to me a much bigger problem than it should be at this point in the season. Yep. This just doesn't make sense to me for the Milwaukee Bucks. It would be a desperation play to try to get Giannis to stay. And I think he would look at this and say, are you guys stupid? What are we doing?
Trae Young, $45.9 million this year. Trae Young, player option next year for $48.9 million, unrestricted free agent in 27-28. If I was a betting man, I would bet that he opts out of this deal at the end of this year. So if you are going to trade for Trae Young and you want Trae Young, in my mind, I need an extension done now with Trae Young. I do not need him opting out at the end of this year. I give up all these assets and then he's out the back door and I get him for a couple of months. This cannot be a rental deal for any NBA team that's looking to get Trae Young at this point.
No, there's not a team right now in my mind in the NBA that's looking for just that one last piece this season to push them over the hump. Maybe a team like Indiana that feels like they can get back to the finals if they can just go and trade for that type of player and just take on that contract for 1 year because they're going to get Tyrese Haliburton back next year. Maybe that's somewhere I could see it. But even then, I don't think he helps Indiana enough for them to say, yeah, let's go and do that. That's just, it's a player that feels like the Hawks are so desperate to get off of that there's so many problems with it that no other team would touch it with a 20-foot pole.
Okay, let's go to the Nicolay Law Talk and text line. You can hop on there as well, 414-677-1250. This one here, Dominic in Hale says, yay, another trade to get a player for Giannis. Haven't we seen this movie before? Another one coming in from the 262. You trade for Young, and when he and Giannis are out with injury, there's nobody left to put on the court. Can we get Drew back?
Yeah.
The problem is when Giannis is out, you need a scorer, folks. That's the issue. That's why they made the trade for Lillard, because Giannis can't ever stay healthy. And that's the other part about this is, okay, there's going to be a trade for Giannis. If I'm the other team trading for Giannis, I'm bringing that up. Okay, you want all this in return. Swell. But he hasn't been able to stay healthy for most postseasons since prior to the championship run. Like, I'm going to bring that up if I'm an opposing team trading for Giannis. If I'm an opposing team trading for Giannis, he gets hurt in the regular season too when he can't play. Thirdly, as he's getting older, the wear and tear on his body, he's going to get hurt even more than he was getting hurt previously when he can't stay healthy. Like, health is going to be a big thing. You don't have to make the Lillard trade if Giannis could just have stayed healthy in the postseason. Again, as I remind you, hyperextended his knee. They won that championship despite him being hurt, and they were able to overcome it. So then it's like, okay, he can't stay healthy. We need somebody that can, carry the water to get us through a round possibly if we lose Giannis in the playoffs, like seemingly happens every year. So they made the deal for Lillard. Problem is, Lillard then couldn't stay healthy for 2 years, nor could Giannis. And then Middleton, the first year, had to try and do it all by himself against the Pacers.
It's frustrating because you keep going back and forth between these two things that we need for the Bucks. Yes, we need that secondary scorer, but we also need the rebounding and defense, but we also need the secondary scorer. And with Giannis on the team, you can't really have those two things at once right now. You got lucky because Drew Holiday was traded for relatively cheap when you made that trade for him. Chris Middleton was a steal. He came out of nowhere. Brook Lopez revived his career in Milwaukee. It was a culmination of a lot of things just working together at the same time. And now that Giannis has gotten to this point, this level of stardom, it's really hard to put all those pieces back together around him unless you get lucky again or take a lot of gambles.
will say that they aren't necessarily in a position where they need to go find another guard. They need rebounding help in the worst way.
Mhm.
The problem is whoever you get, Herb Jones, whoever, is not going to help you scoring. You don't have a number 2 scorer. The best options for a number 2 scorer are from that wing position. A lot of them. DeRozan, Levine, whoever it's going to be, that's where you're going to get that second scoring option because Miles Turner hasn't been good. 12 points, 12 and a half points. Oh, boy. Doesn't rebound. So that's been a complete flop to this point. Not to say that he can't turn it around and be better in the second half, but he's been horrible to this point. So you have to find a second scoring option. And if you trade away Bobby Portis, there goes your scoring off the bench. See ya. There goes your rebounding off the bench. See ya. Kuzma has had moments, at least during the season, where you had flashes of like, ooh, that was pretty good. Okay, he put together a nice game there, right? You've had some of that. And Kuzma doesn't break my heart if they trade Kuzma. I don't think that's going to come back and bite you. I just don't know if you overcome the Portis thing. That's my thing. And y'all can say, oh, he's not that good defensively and so forth. Oh, fine, but you can't rebound and you can't score. So if you trade a guy that does both, you're really going to be in trouble because Trae Young ain't going to go average 8, 10 rebounds a night. You're giving up another big to get a guard? Again, like Charlie said, it makes no sense whatsoever. What does make sense? Habish, and Rotier. You realize Habish, and Rotier has been a name in my family since I was dating back to high school, I would say, back in the day. Because, they've been the personal injury lawyer for a long time. Getting a car accident, whatever the case may be. You want that experienced attorney that can win that case for you and get what you rightfully deserve. You call Habish, and Rotier. And Habish, they've been together forever. Going back to the day, my buddy had this mad crush on this girl when we were in high school. Mad crush. And we would always say, oh, yeah, we use her last name and then attach it to Habish, and then what her last name was. I'm not going to do it to embarrass her. But Habish, and whatever. And that was a running joke for years in my family. So now that I get to talk about Habish, and Rotier, even a cooler feeling at the end of the day. This is who you want to get a hold of. I'm telling you, they're the ones you rely on. Check them out today at Habish.com or call them 800-2HABISH.
Some shows talk about one team. Other shows barely talk sports. This show will talk Packers, Brewers, and Bucks every day. It's Wisconsin Sports Daily with Steve Sparky Pfeiffer, served up by Wendy's on the Wisconsin Sports Radio Network. Download the Wendy's app today.
It is time again. Here we are, Tuesday, January 6th, getting ready for Packers, Bears coming up on Saturday night, 7 o'clock kick. Well, the Green Bay football postgame show for you at that point. Looking forward to that for certain. It's going to be a fun one indeed coming up on Saturday night. And not only is it going to be a fun one coming up on Saturday night, but we're going to have some fun between now and Saturday as well. Coming up on Thursday, getting ready for that game, Wisconsin Sports Radio Network broadcast live from Green Bay, 9 to noon with John Kuhn and Rami Makloff. And then the Mason Crosby Show with Mitch Thunder Nelson broadcast live from Margarita's Mexican Food and Cantina, just 2 blocks from Lambeau Field on Lombardi Avenue. Come hang out with the guys from Wisconsin Sports Radio Network coming up on Thursday from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. at Margarita's Mexican Food and Cantina. Again, in Green Bay on Thursday. It is the Wisconsin Sports Radio Network, after all. We're going to travel around the state. We'll do shows around the state here in 2026 as well. So if you're listening in Wausau, you very well may see some of our shows up in your neck of the woods. Duluth, Superior. Hopefully we'll be able to get up to you guys as well at some point here in 2026 as we continue to spread the love and show our thanks for everybody carrying us here on the Wisconsin Sports Radio Network. Got some people that wanted to continue to talk about this Bucks topic, so we'll do that. John McNamara, Badger 24/7, comes up here at 3:20. We'll get back to that and talking about the Badger portal and that fun stuff. Right now, talking about that offer for Trae Young that ESPN put out there for the Bucks, as it is now public that Trae Young and the Hawks are working on getting him moved to somewhere and finding him a home via trade. The suggested trade by ESPN was Kyle Kuzma, Bobby Portis, Gary Harris, and a first-round pick in 2031 for Trae Young. Would you do it? Nicolay Law Talker text line 414-677-1250. James, south side of Milwaukee, you're next here on Wisconsin Sports Daily, served up by Wendy's. What's up?
Yeah, Sparky, I wouldn't do that. You know what? If you do, that's the last kind of pieces of that team that you had that won the championship back then. And you got a sinking ship there. Giannis is by himself, sinking slowly into the dark depths of whatever it's going to be. You just might as well face it as that.
But James, this is the thing. You only have Portis and Giannis left from the championship roster. You've only got those 2 guys left to begin with.
I'm just saying, but Portis would be. Portis is gone with this goofy ass trade that you're just talking about.
Yep.
He's by himself, and he's just going to sink right down to the darkened bottom. Kiss it goodbye. Kiss the Bucks goodbye. I mean, whatever else is going to happen with the Bucks, besides with Giannis and that.
So this is the thing. Thanks for the call. This is what you have to analyze right now, I think, if you're the Bucks. Peter Fagan's leaving. Horrible. Haslam seems to have even more control as he gets to appoint one of his lackeys to come in and be in charge of this organization. That's horrible. Don't like that either. And I don't know the guy. I'm sure the guy is a great guy. I'm sure he's whatever. Fine. But sorry, you're guilt by association being related to or being associated with that dude. That's how this is going to work until proven otherwise. So that's another negative. Now, if you're John Horst, who knows how much longer he'll be here, but if you're John Horst, and then you are Giannis, there has to be conversations, right? I mean, Peter Fagan and Giannis, I would assume, had to have had a conversation about him not being president anymore. And Giannis didn't find out when the rest of us found out. Or I really hope that's what happened. I really hope he didn't find out what we all found out in a press release. So we'll give them the benefit of the doubt that there was obviously conversations going up to this, that Fagan was leaving, and that he would no longer be there. Then we have John Horst, who, again, if you trade him, that's on your resume. Do you want that on your resume, John? Probably not. So, if this is all in, try and save Giannis, do whatever you have to do, this Trae Young deal may occur because you have to go find him another star player to play with, because we know Giannis, he wants to play with stars, right? He wants to play with the names and so forth. So if that's the deal, maybe he does that deal. And then when the season's all done and you lose in the playoffs, it's, I resign. I'm done. I'm going to go do some consulting work or something somewhere, and I'm done. I'm out of here. And some other lucky chap will get to be the one that trades Giannis this offseason or gets to try and convince Giannis to stay past next season. Because nobody wants that on their resume. I promise you, nobody wants that on their resume. So I could see a world in where they do this deal. Absolutely. But if you're the Bucks, and if internally, without Giannis in the room, if you're like, there's no way we're going to be able to keep him happy this summer. Like, we have no way of making this work again. We've pulled every rabbit out of our hat that we've been able to do this entire time. We have nothing left that we can potentially do this summer. Then what is going to be the play by Giannis and his agent when we can't do anything else to add to this? If you feel like this is a sinking ship and there's no hope after this season of keeping him, why would you trade a 2031 first-round pick for? Why would you do that? If you think the chances are good that you can't keep him, you should never even entertain the idea of trading a 2031 first-round pick at this point. Or 32. Should never come up.
We have some breaking Packers news.
I heard. It's really not that important, but go ahead.
The Packers have released quarterback Clayton Tune, who started for them on Sunday versus Minnesota, and they have signed veteran quarterback Desmond Ridder from the practice squad to the active roster.
Say that again.
The Packers have released quarterback Clayton Tune.
Read the Ridder part.
They signed veteran quarterback Desmond Ridder from the practice squad to the active roster.
Didn't LaFleur say Malik Willis was going to be good to go?
He did say that.
Then why the hell are we carrying 3 quarterbacks for?
Just in case. They have also signed wide receiver Julian Hicks, Keyshawn Johnson, and tight end Messiah Swinson to the practice squad.
Yeah, Hicks back again. I liked Hicks in training camp. But either way, I don't know, whatever. I'd rather have Tune than Ridder, to be honest with you, but so be it. Desmond Ridder, go ahead. If he comes in the game, it's over. Turn off your TV. Turn on Wisconsin Sports Radio Network. Tommy Wirtz and I, or whoever is with me. I think Tommy's going to be off on Saturday night, but I'll be on with the Green Bay Football postgame show. We'll just get started. Like, I don't think I'm waiting. If Ridder comes into the game, we're just going to start the postgame show. I don't think I'm waiting for it to end because the game's over at that point. Let's go to Andy and Grafton. You're next on the Nicolay Law Talk and Text Line here on Wisconsin Sports Daily, served up by Wendy's. What's up, Andy?
Hey, how's it going?
Good.
I have 2 points. One, if you're going to bring in a ball-dominant player like Trae Young, then you have to figure out a way to trade Ryan Rollins because he's probably your most important or most like your biggest trade piece besides Giannis on the roster because of his potential. And obviously the way he's playing this year, he needs to have the ball. So he's not an off the ball shooting guard.
But Andy,
so
if you're the Bucks, are you going to trade away guys that potentially you could build with after Giannis is gone to get Giannis?
No,
I mean, if you trade Portis,
what
Kuzma, Gary Harris, big deal.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is though there's between Giannis's usage rate and then what Trae Young's usage rate is going to be in order for Trae Young to be effective. Because obviously the same thing we saw with Dame Lillard. So you brought in a guy who's high usage, but there's not enough ball to go around for those two to actually play together, especially with Giannis's. Look, this is what I was going to say prior to the Trae Young thing. I think the league is starting to see that the way the Bucks play basketball doesn't win in the new NBA. So I think that even if Giannis is healthy in the playoffs these last 4 years, teams are able to stop that. Teams are able to figure out how to beat the Bucks in 4 out of 7 games with the way that we play because he's too ball dominant. And then when you brought in a player like Dame and you asked Giannis, okay, so Dame's going to take 50% of the his skill base isn't good enough to be an off the ball guy because he can only do the one thing that we all know Giannis does well. But if Giannis doesn't have the ball, he's not effective.
Correct. So, Andy, let me ask you this. So if you're another team, what's the perfect scenario for Giannis?
Well, you would lowball the Bucks, and that's just why when
No. I'm not asking trade. I'm asking personnel-wise, where does he fit the best? Where you're like, okay, that's perfect for Giannis. They'll win championships.
I mean, to be honest with you, I have this conversation with my brother all the time, and I don't think that there's a team in the league that fits because I think what whoever would trade for Giannis, they would end up becoming the version of the Bucks that we see every night.
Agreed.
And no team would look at the way the Bucks play on offense or defense and say, that's how we want to play basketball.
Yeah, I agree.
So,
I'm with you. Andy, I agree with you. Thanks for the call. This is the thing. If you bring him in, you better be damn certain whatever personnel you have left is going to work perfectly with Giannis. Because the points that Andy bring up have to be the points that other GMs are thinking about when they're looking at what it's going to look like with Giannis. Nobody is debating he's one of the best of all time or that he's the best in Bucks history. None of that's up for debate. The debate is the build of the roster and how to maximize a roster around Giannis as the one and how to make that work so you can consistently, try and win championships. Because if you're going to give up a boatload for Giannis, you better win a championship because if you don't, you're going to be getting fired and everybody is going to be mad at you for not being able to finish the deal. From the 262 asking about the Trae Young deal, would you do it? It's Bobby Portis, if you're just tuning in. Bobby Portis, Gary Harris, Kyle Kuzma, and a first in 2031 is what ESPN laid out there today in an article. The 262 said, no, not a chance. Am I taking that trade for Young? Chemistry and depth is much more important than taking drastic swings. That trade would punch Giannis's ticket out of Milwaukee. Jake and Dousman. See, again, the question just is does he already have that train, that ticket punched? We don't. I don't know. I have no idea. He knows. I don't know if anybody else does. I mean, his agents are pushing him to get out of here, obviously. Where his heart's at, I have no clue. 262, talking about Trae Young. That dude is a legit traffic cone on defense. We saw how that worked with Damian Lillard. And Charlie Houston was all over that and just said, you realize Giannis's defense has suffered, as has Brook Lopez's, because of Lillard's ineffective defense at the guard position. You called it when it was happening.
You need that help on the perimeter, and the Bucks had Drew Holiday, who is by far one of the best players in the league at perimeter defense when it comes to that guard position. Chris Middleton was helping out in that facet as well. You just had also players that seemed like they wanted to play defense night in, night out. There's times with this Bucks team that they do look like they want to be aggressive on defense, and it works out, and then other nights where they don't look like they know what to do on that side of the ball. It's really frustrating.
Ron Rome on the Nicolay Law Talk and text line. If Giannis keeps making demands that are making this team worse, I say don't let the door hit your ass on the way out of town. From Ron Rome on the Nicolay Law Talk and text line. There's no chance I ever would have predicted people saying stuff like that. No chance. No way. The fact that you allowed it to get to this point with some of the fans and this fan base about you speaks of how poorly you have handled this situation. Horribly. Justin in North Carolina, you're next on the Nicolay Law Talk and text line. Good afternoon, Justin.
Happy New Year, Spark. Man, I got a couple things, man. First of all, the second scorer on this team, he's already on the roster. His name is Kevin Porter Jr. 18.6 points a game. I think it's like 5 rebounds and 7 assists. Mm-hmm. And then that leads me to my point. I think KPJ at this current day in 2026 is a better guard and a better fit for the Milwaukee Bucks than what Trae Young is. He's a defensive liability, like you gentlemen mentioned, as far as the Damian Lillard comparison. Absolutely. But he just doesn't bring what KPJ brings. And I think he can bring a lot more, and his ceiling is a lot higher. Trae Young's best days are behind him. And the last thing I need is another guy on this team that is even more injury prone than what Giannis is developing into. Keep in mind, this team is 5-1 with KPJ and Giannis on the floor. And the one loss they have is a BS fluke loss to a team that should never beat the Bucks with the herd on the team. So I think we're good there. And lastly, when I text you guys earlier in the year, this is what I meant by Kuzma not having any pressure on him. And valuable to trade. He is our best on-ball defender, maybe outside of Ryan Rollins. But who else are you going to put to check Draymond Green, DeMar DeRozan, Carl Anthony Towns? Oh, then the way in the switch, he can hold his own against a Steph Curry, or Trey Young and stuff like that.
So Justin, hold on. I just want to understand something. Are you suggesting they just stay at the deadline and not do anything?
Absolutely. I think there's enough talent here, and these guys haven't really got the opportunity to play with their feet together as a team. Everything is predicated on 34, though.
Yes.
And lastly, for you guys, you gentlemen do such a great job. I don't think Giannis is going anywhere. I think Giannis is going to sign a Supermax in October of 2026 because I think right now we're the only team that will give him that Supermax, and we're not going to get the capital back for it. So I think Giannis is a lifelong buck.
Good God, that's crazy. Justin, thanks for the call. Not that you're crazy, but the comment of nobody else will give him that other than Milwaukee, that's crazy. Like, that is absolutely crazy. Coming up next, John McNamara, BadgerBlitz.com, part of the 24/7 site, recruiting site. We'll get his thoughts on this Badgers transfer portal and what they've been doing. It's Wisconsin Sports Daily, served up by Wendy's, live from the Wisconsin Sports Radio Network studios, powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook. Sparky here. Wisconsin Sports Daily, served up by Wendy's. Potawatomi Sportsbook, that's where you're going to want to be. 2,000 square foot screen, over 30 sporting events at one time, 2 levels. Potawatomi Sportsbook kitchen, unmatched. 48 beers on tap, dozen different specialty cocktails, all day brunch. You got burgers, wraps, salads, wings, you name it, they got it. Plus, homemade desserts and pastries each and every day at the Potawatomi Casino Hotel. Reserve your seat online, especially when you got college playoff games coming up, NFL playoff games coming up, NBA, NHL. There's a lot going on right now, folks. And that place is busy. It's hopping. So reserve your seat. They got tabletops, big, gigantic booths for like 8 people. They got individual like recliner chairs, they look like, out there on the floor, first and second rows. Very cool. Reserve today, Potawatomi.com, and look for the sportsbook reservations. Nominal fee, but it goes towards your food and beverage, and you are all set. Joining us now on the guest hotline, powered by Gruber Law. One call, that is all there is, his shiny head. He is John McNamara at 24/7. Follow him on X at McNamara _24/7. John, how are we doing this afternoon?
Doing real well, Sparky. How are you?
The Peter Fagan thing still has me shook. Him leaving and some Haslam crony now in charge. Like I'm having a hard time moving on and feeling okay about this, John. I'm just seeing visions of an organization run worse than Herb Cole was running it, and I don't think I can live through that again, John.
Yeah, Sparky. I wish I paid attention to the NBA. I'd have something to add there.
No, you don't have to. It's just not good. I mean, the Bucks that we grew up with, and we're about to do it again, I think. Okay, so let's talk about the Wisconsin Badgers. Also, really don't make you feel good either the last couple of years. Luke Fickell is here. They promised at the end of the year they were going to spend more money this year than they spent in the past. Do you believe that to be true, seeing the current additions through the portal? And before anybody says, well, Sparky, how do you think they're getting these guys? Well, they had to get these guys. They got to have a roster to play with. Regardless of how much they're spending, they still got to fill the roster. So that doesn't necessarily mean they're spending more money than they did previously. What are you hearing on that side, John?
Yeah, Chris McIntosh talked about the investment he was going to make in the program and how things are going to be different. I think this wave since January 2nd of the transfer portal has been an indication of that. Now, you're not getting exact figures for each and every one of these guys, but the conversations that they've been in, the negotiations that they've been in, and the 14 guys that they've landed so far and that they've been able to sign, I think has proven that there is more money available just because of the caliber guy that they've got across the board here. Again, I think that it's difficult to say, yes, they've increased by X amount of percent or X amount of dollars, but with what they've been able to do over the last couple of days, it tells me or indicates that they are playing with a different financial bracket or a different financial tier than they have been in the past recruiting cycles. Now, I know your question, Sparky, will be, will that produce on the field? That's the biggest thing. We have to wait until the spring and obviously into the fall to see that. But I think the results in terms of what they're able to do over the last 48 hours have been very positive.
Let's talk about the quarterback, kid from Old Dominion, Colton Joseph. I'm not going to sit here and tell you I watched all the Old Dominion games and all that nonsense because I clearly didn't. The first thing I did was I went back and I looked at game logs. So I want to see what this dude was all about. Indiana, 3 interceptions. The both losses he had in the middle of the season, Marshall and James Madison, 2 picks in both of those games. And I'm just thinking to myself, okay, I mean, those numbers are cute, right? You ran for 1,000 yards, you threw for a couple thousand, and that's fine against a lot lower level competition. Now you're coming up, and now you're going to have to play a much tougher level of combination or competition, starting with Notre Dame, at the beginning of next season. I question whether or not he's going to be able to stay healthy because obviously the track record with Luke Fickell says everybody gets hurt. And now you brought in a guy that runs around on purpose. And that's part of his game. I don't know, man. I'm a little nervous about this one.
I think you should be. And I think the fan base largely feels the same way after watching your starting quarterback go down for 3 years in a row. And like you talked about, Sparky, I mean, this guy is a true dual threat. So he is going to tuck and he's going to run the football. I don't know that he has this big explosive arm, but he's fairly accurate. I will say, though, that one, this is a guy that I think fits what Jeff Grimes wants to do very well. Obviously, he had a big part in identifying and landing this commitment and stuff like that. But there is that running element to it. And in the back of your mind as a Wisconsin fan, you've seen what has happened in previous seasons. But I don't think that's something that you can shy away from. Again, they brought Joseph in for a reason. One, because of his ability with his legs and the fit in the offense, and two, he does have 2 years of eligibility remaining. So those are two big things I think that Wisconsin liked and identified. And again, the fit is there, but you got to keep this guy healthy because you've seen what has happened over the last 3 years when Wisconsin had to go to their second, third, and this year they went to their fourth quarterback this year. So absolutely, that is something that is on their mind. I don't think they're done at quarterback. Colton Joseph is going to be your quarterback one as soon as winter workouts begin, as soon as they get into spring camp. But they're going to have to add another depth piece to add to a room that will likely bring back Carter Smith, Danny O'Neill. All indications was that his injury was pretty severe, so you can't necessarily count on him next year. So you have Joseph as your QB1. You're going to likely, almost certainly, have to add another piece to the room via the portal in the next couple days here too.
I want to get into a couple of specific players, but before I do that, for years and years and years, while you were growing up, I was growing up, the one position group you never, ever were worried about was the offensive line because you just knew they were going to have big hogs up front. They were going to push people backwards for the entire game. You were going to run the football, and you were going to own the line of scrimmage, regardless if it was Wisconsin, UCLA, or Wisconsin, Oregon, whoever it was. You were going to hold your own, if not win the battle 9 out of 10 times with that offensive line. That has not been the case as of recently. How are we feeling about this Badgers offensive line as we look ahead?
Yeah, Eric Mateos is in now. So another offensive line coach. So it's been a difficult amount of transition for that position group. What you talk about, Sparky's been so rock solid for 25, 30 years or so. So all indications from Eric Mateos, who's coming over from Arkansas, is, if you look at the Arkansas fan base, you listen to some of their writers and read what's coming out of there. That was a pretty significant loss that they chose not to retain him. So Wisconsin gets him. He has the connection to Jeff Grimes here, and right away he's kind of hit the ground running. You've seen him add 2 guys right away. Austin Kowicki from Oklahoma State, who projects as your likely starter at center, and then Blake Cherry is a younger guy who's coming over from Arkansas as well. I think he'll battle for one of those guard spots. I think they're probably about halfway done in terms of what they want to do on the portal on the offensive line. There's 2 big-time guys, one from Florida State, one from Ole Miss, that are currently on campus right now. Those 2, if they were able to land them, are guys that you would certainly imagine are going to be in the starting conversation. But there's a lot of work to do, Sparky, like you talked about, to get that position group back to where it's been in the past, and back to the upper half of the Big Ten. They certainly weren't there this past year, but Eric Mateos, I think, is a really strong hire. Now, we'll see what he's able to do in terms of being able to bring this group up from where it was, because it certainly wasn't where it needed to be this past season.
Solid job, McNamara, Badger 24/7. Follow him on X at McNamara_247. Joining us here on Wisconsin Sports Daily. Served up by Wendy. Steve Sparky, Fiver with you. The quarterback is what it is, but he's going to have somebody to throw to, right? You got to have better skill position players at wide receiver, especially when they all left. Vinny Anthony, I thought, God bless him for staying. I think he really screwed his stock by staying at Wisconsin. He could have went somewhere else and really improved his draft stock probably quite a bit more than sticking it out in Madison. Having said that, I think the guy that I really like more than the others that I've watched so far is the Shamar Rigby kid, this wide receiver from Okie State, mainly because he's a big physical receiver. He's like 6'3", can high point the ball from what I've seen watching on video. Did they have to outbid a bunch of people to get him? And how do you see that playing out?
Yeah, there's a number of schools involved with him, and Wisconsin obviously got him up, in the first couple of hours when they were able to, up to Madison for a visit, get his commitment, get his signature. But like you talked about, Spark, big guy, 6'3", over 200 pounds, that big boundary receiver that's difficult to get. Right now he's likely penciled in as a starter, largely because that room is kind of pretty much wiped out, right, through graduation, through transfers. Eugene Hilton, he's in the portal now, likely headed to LSU's been mentioned with him, I think Florida. So that was a pretty significant loss. Vinny Anthony, your top receiver to graduation. So Rigby's there, but that's probably the next biggest position that I'm watching over the next week or so is who they can add to that room. I think it's 3, probably 4 guys. So Rigby, in addition to 3 more guys, it's going to be interesting to see who they bring in there.
You got that Cash kid, didn't you, that was going to go to Iowa State?
Yeah, so he's from the 26 class, so that probably takes one guy from the portal, maybe a younger guy that you're going to target. You added Cash Brock from the 26 class. He'll be up, for spring camp, but I don't know that's a guy that you pencil in as a rotational guy right away this year. I think they're going to target 2, if not 3 more portal guys who they feel that can help them right away, because right now you got Chris Brooks Jr. coming back, and he's a nice piece, but he's not a difference maker. Right. He's not explosive. And you have Tyrell Henry in the slot. I think they'd like to upgrade there and have those 2 be rotational pieces where you bring in potentially 2 new boundary guys and a slot guy as potential starters here. And it helps, I would say, you have that Joseph piece in, and it helps with these skill guys now, because the biggest question that you have right away is, how much are you going to pay me? And then question 2 needs to be, who's going to throw me the football?
Absolutely.
They have one of those cemented, and then they're negotiating that first piece.
Did this team need an upgrade at running back? Abu Sama III obviously was a decent, I think, portal acquisition for the Badgers. And I'm not sure. I kind of looked at running back and said, oh, yeah, they better go find a portal running back. But clearly they thought it was something.
Yeah, he comes over with, the new running backs coach that they got from Minnesota. They had a connection there. And Sama was a guy that had a lot of teams connect with him. So to get him up early, sign him, that was pretty significant, Wisconsin. But I think you're going to need probably another back here. Brian Jackson, the kid from USC, has been tied to Wisconsin. They're looking for that big, thicker running back to maybe complement in this class, this portal class, I should say. They're losing Cade Yakameli via the portal, Dylan Jones via the portal. So, 2 felt like a pretty safe number. They're halfway there at running back. Darian Dupree, kind of pencil him as coming back as a guy that you expect to be in the rotation. But then Gideon Atuka, who went down with that kind of scary injury against Indiana, his status is kind of up in the air. We've never got anything really definitive or, concrete about what his status is moving forward. So they were definitely looking for 2 here. So like I said, about halfway there at that running back position.
As we sit here today, looking at what the Badgers are trying to do, is this already a successful portal class, regardless of what happens going forward, or do you need to see more before you're convinced?
I'm going to need to see defensive line, right? And that's the position that they addressed the best last portal class, right? Where they got 3 true difference makers. And that was a position of strength, and what you haven't said a whole lot about the Wisconsin Badgers in the past handful of years. So they're going to need to add 2, if not 3, via the transfer portal. They got a couple guys up, those big true pluggers in the middle that they had this year, Ben Barton, JVR Suggs, Brandon Lane, those guys are all gone now. They need replacements for them. You feel good about a couple guys you got coming back. Charles Perkins, I think, can be a rotational piece, but they're looking for starters there. So that would be the box that I need to see checked over the next handful of days to say, this is a pretty strong portal class. This isn't a strong portal class. If they can do what they did this year, pretty similarly to what they did last year, I think it would go a long way to how we view this transfer portal class as a whole. But again, these are just talking points right now. It's guys you're getting excited about. You're not going to know until the fall, right? And I think a lot of Wisconsin fans are in prove it mode. I'll believe it when I see it mode, and I can't blame them. But right now, across college football, it's a time to talk yourself into all these guys that you're in via the portal. It's an exciting time. But I also get for the point that people are burying their head that said, talk to me in September. I get that part too.
So LaFleur's on the hot seat, not LaFleur. Fickell's on the hot seat, right? I mean, at the end of the day, this schedule is a lot easier outside of Notre Dame than they've had in the last couple of years, this year and in 27. They have to at least be a bowl team, I would think, in order to have Fickell going forward. And if they don't make a bowl game again, you would have to think that's it.
Yeah, this is, I think it's make or break, right? The fact that he got to year 4, I think, was surprising to a lot of fans. Now, obviously, Chris McIntosh went out on 3 different occasions and said we're committed to him and all this kind of stuff. And whether you like it or not, Fickell's back in year 4. But beyond that, like you talked about with the schedule, with the influx of money, if they miss a bowl game, I have a hard time believing that Luke makes it to year 5. So the second piece to that is, what do you define as success? Is a 6-6 season with a bowl game successful because you're moving in the right direction? Do they need to have 7 wins? I don't think that Chris McIntosh will ever come out and say we need X amount of wins in order for Luke to continue with his job here. But with everything kind of moving in the direction that it is, this feels like it has to be a 7-5 plus team in order for Luke to continue to be the head coach at Wisconsin.
We have a couple of things coming in here on our Dugout YouTube chat. One from, is that Winning Gambler?
Yep.
Whatever happened with Braden Pagan?
Yeah.
The wide receiver at Utah State.
Yeah, Braden Pagan. I could tell the guy that came in with that question is really dialed in. I mean, big time guy from Utah State came in. The momentum was certainly working in Wisconsin's favor there. A guy that commanded a pretty big price tag. A guy that we had stuff all ready for because we were feeling like he was close to committing and signing. He ended up going to Rutgers. We're waiting to kind of get some intel after that. Certainly not someone that Wisconsin's given up on, but Pagan and, Joseph, they spent a ton of time together while they were in Madison, right? And, the comments we got from Joseph, he was pretty optimistic about that as well too. So we'll have to see that. I mean, that would be a pretty significant addition. But some of the money that we're hearing that Rutgers is potentially throwing out to him, where I don't know how much it would make sense on Wisconsin's end in terms of can you put that much money on a receiver when you do have big time needs at a position like defensive line, offensive line, where those numbers are traditionally a lot higher than receivers.
920 Sparky Rama, why would Fickle take the Wisconsin job in the first place if he didn't think that Wisconsin had the NIL to make them competitive to begin with?
That's a good question. You got to ask Luke that, right? I think that there were things that he felt needed to be in place and assurances that he likely had. And that maybe didn't, it's difficult when you talk about these things because you don't have these concrete numbers that Wisconsin or the university is giving you in terms of this is what we're spending, this is what type of contract we're giving the guys. So it's tough to say, if Luke was surprised by this or he didn't expect it or he expected more. But all the indications that we're getting is that there is a better, more appropriate financial commitment moving forward right now. And I do think we've seen that in the last couple of days with the guys that Wisconsin's been able to get on campus and the guys that have been able to sign.
I have one last one. Joseph's making at least $1 million, right?
Oh yeah.
Think about that.
And he's not even I would say in terms of this quarterback pool in general, he's like a tier 2 guy.
Right.
Sorsby's getting $5 million to go to Texas Tech.
Right. That's what I'm saying. He's making at least $1 million. Then maybe he's making $2 million. I don't know what he's making, but I mean, he's making $2 million. I'm just going to keep saying it, keep talking until McNamara tells me to stop. So he's making $2 million. Is he making $3 million, John? Are we at $3 million?
I don't know the exact number, but I know he's making more than $1 million.
Yeah, he's making probably
more than $2 million.
Yep. John McNamara, Badger 24/7. He wishes he was making $2 million. Follow him on X at McNamara _24/7. John, I appreciate you so much. Thank you, sir.
All right, buddy. We'll see you.
Take care. There is John McNamara on the guest hotline powered by Gruber Law. One call, that's all. Up next, Charlie Sounds of the Day on Wisconsin Sports Daily, served up by Wendy's, live from Wisconsin Sports Radio Network studios, powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook. Sparky here. It's Wisconsin Sports Daily, served up by Wendy's. Let me tell you about my friends over there at Habish, and Rotier. National reputation, hometown service, baby, when it comes to personal injury. Get in that car accident or something and you need help and you don't know what to do. You don't know who you can trust. These the people that you can trust. They've been going since 1930, man. 1930. Nearly 100 years they've been helping people in Wisconsin. There's 13 locations statewide. Milwaukee, got you. Green Bay, got you. Appleton, absolutely. Kenosha, Lake Geneva, Racine, Rhinelander, Sheboygan, Stevens Point, Waukesha, Wausau, West Bend, Madison, all over the state. You can find Habish, and Rotier. Check them out today at visithabish.com. Again, it's habish.com or call them 800-2HABISH, 800-2HABISH, Habish, and Rotier. Again, this is who you should trust. This is who you should go to. Experience matters when the stakes are high, right? So get a hold of them today at habish.com. Time now for Charlie's Sounds of the Day.
1, 2, 3. What sound clips will Chicago Charlie pick today for Sparky? Will Sparky become enraged? Will laughter ensue? It's time for Charlie's Sound of the Day. It's Wisconsin Sports Daily, served up by Wendy's on the Wisconsin Sports Radio Network.
Just got this sent to me from Todd on X, quote tweeting another tweet from Greg Biggins. After earlier visits to Wisconsin and Rutgers, Utah State transfer receiver Braden Pagan has a final Big 12 trip set before it's decision time. So he has not made his decision yet, which means Wisconsin technically hasn't been eliminated yet from that decision of a big-time wide receiver out of Utah State coming to Wisconsin through the portal. We'll see how that goes. All right. Charlie Sounds of the Day brought to you by Prize Picks. What do we got?
All right. So first up here, we're going to head back on over to foul territory. We haven't been over there in a little while since baseball season ended. But Ken Rosenthal, MLB insider, and on that show all the time has his own fair territory that he does as well, was discussing the Brewers potentially trading Freddie Peralta and what his market looks like right now.
While all the big market teams seem to be in on him, there are small market teams as well that can certainly afford Freddie Peralta at $8 million and are at least in contact with the Brewers. I would expect that if he is traded, and I do believe he will be traded, I said that on Fair Territory yesterday, I believe, then they will get in excess of what they acquired for Corbin Burns. And remember, that was Joey Ortiz, who was their starting shortstop last year, admittedly not a good offensive player. DL Hall, a lefty with still some promise, and a draft pick that has not panned out for them just yet. But the reason Peralta is even more attractive than Burns, he might not be quite as accomplished, of course, but he's making half as much money as Burns was. And at the end of the season, if you like him, you can hit him with a qualifying offer and then get one of the prospects back as draft pick compensation. So maybe he won't get as much as Burns. Maybe I overstated that, but I can see where he could bring them even more. And the price of the salary, the cost is the reason for that. He's so much cheaper and you do get the pick back. So that was the case with Burns too, but I just think that Freddie Peralta, if he goes, he's going to go for a nice haul for the Brewers.
I don't even want to think about that. I don't. I want Peralta on this damn team. I want him in the rotation. I don't want Freddie Peralta traded. I was reading a piece earlier today on MLBTradeRumors.com. Great website if you've ever checked it out. And there was a lot of conversation about the idea of, what teams are involved, what teams would want them. And there's got to be 6 to 10 teams mentioned as far as the different teams that would be of interest to the Brewers for Freddie Peralta. But again, the comp pick that you would get if he were to go sign a 5-year, $100 million deal or something like that would be really good. Plus, you get the revenue sharing pick because you don't go over the luxury tax, plus your own first-round pick. You're going to be okay if you were to let him walk in free agency and try to make one more push to try and win this bad boy. And you're deep enough in the rotation to where even if somebody gets hurt, you're still okay. If you trade Peralta and go, well, we need a major league starter and back. Okay, is he going to be as good as Freddie Peralta? Probably not if they're trading him to you and they want Freddie Peralta. And then you're going to get less prospects because they're going to say, we're giving you a big league starter. Why? Well, I don't want to give you more on top of that. So I don't like the idea. I hope they don't do it. What's next?
Next up, we're going to head over to the Joel Klatt show on Fox Sports. Joel Klatt was discussing why he thinks it's not good that ESPN has sole rights to the college football playoffs.
They chose the wrong path when it comes to the presentation of this playoff. There is no playoff that should be a single television partner. It just shouldn't. It just shouldn't. Because the presentation is important, in particular when you're down to this point in the sport where you're trying to showcase games. And like, let's face it, it'd be better if every network was giving an A-level broadcast versus a single presenter. In particular, when that single presenter has a deep relationship with just one conference within college football. That's how you know this is not like a Fox ESPN thing for me, because I don't think it would be great if we at Fox solely had the college football playoff. That wouldn't be good for the sport. And it's not good the way that it is right now.
Okay. So first of all, that's a person that does this for a living, potentially mad that he doesn't have any money involved in this, not getting paid to do games. There's probably some of that, right? The other part of this is just saying from a viewer perspective, it's a hell of a lot easier for me to find where the playoff game is if it's on one network the entire run. I don't got to go searching through apps. I don't got to go on a website to see who has a stupid game this time. Me personally, I don't care what network it's on. Just leave it in one spot. You want to be on Fox all year? Cool. NBC, CBS, ABC, don't care. Just don't move it around. I don't want 6 playoff games on 6 different networks or streaming apps. That is the absolute worst. See the NFL. All right, one last one.
We may not have time for the whole clip, but I'll play a little bit of it. This is Leroy Butler, friend of yours, on Up and Adams earlier today, discussing why he thinks the Packers will beat the Bears.
At the end of the day, it is a clean slate in the playoffs. A lot of you guys don't have a lot of playoff experience. They're the youngest team in the league for the 3rd year in a row, but the NFL does not care. You have enough talent to go up there or go down there for them to beat them, because I really think the Chicago Bears are a tired team. They're just wore down.
Really?
So when you win all these games in the fourth quarter,
it's exhausting. I agree with that. It takes its toll. I've seen research on that.
Nah. Leroy's my guy. I don't know if I buy it. Don't think I'm all in on that one. I don't know if they're tired because they're winning close games. That's a tough sell. Wisconsin Sports Daily served up by Wendy's. Back after this with the Green and Gold Update.
Some shows talk about one team. Other shows barely talk sports. This show will talk Packers, Brewers, and Bucks every day. Every day. It's Wisconsin Sports Daily with Steve Sparky Pfeiffer, served up by Wendy's on the Wisconsin Sports Radio Network. Download the Wendy's app today.
It is that time again, 4 o'clock hour. Good afternoon. Hope all is well in your world. Whether you're listening on WNFL 99.7 FM, the Flamethrower in the Green Bay, Appleton area. WNFL is legendary. Wausau 93.9 The Game. Duluth Superior 710 The Game. And, of course, Southeastern Wisconsin in Milwaukee on 1250 AM and 105.7 FM. The Fan. Hope all is well in your world. So get ready for Green Bay and Chicago coming up on Saturday night, 7 p.m. kick. We'll have the Green Bay football postgame show powered by Lakeland University immediately following that game. And, of course, throughout the week, we'll be talking Packer Bears on every show inside Wisconsin sports. Josh Albrecht returns tomorrow with Trevor Thomas from 6 a.m. till 9 a.m., 9 to noon with John Kuhn and Rami Makloff tomorrow, and then noon to 2 Mason Crosby show with Mitch Thunder Nellis. And then we're back at it tomorrow, 2 to 5. Then, of course, Wisconsin sports wrap up each day from 5 until 6. We have to get to a green and gold update, but before we do that, Dave in Cudahy, you're next on the Nicolay Law Talking text line. What's up, Dave?
Good afternoon, gentlemen. I had to chime in on this Bucks conversation because it's an absolutely insane situation that we're in. Let's just be honest. So no matter what happens, it feels like we're taking one piece of the double-edged sword here. But I tend to agree with a lot of the other people is that we don't need necessarily offensive talent. We need some more defensive presence, and getting someone that's on the lesser tier in terms of that stardom. I'm looking over to you, New Orleans. Herb Jones is there. He's waiting to get traded. They're trying to trade anything that they can. They're trading seats in the dang arena. What is it? The Smoothie King or whatever. Like, let's get some better defensive presence to help strengthen up this Bucks team.
They need rebounding is what they need in the most worst way right now. They need a rebounder. Thanks for the call. I appreciate it, Dave. I realize some of you are on the KPJ. He's your second scoring option. Others of you are like Ryan Rollins is the next star. I get all of that. I just don't know if Giannis is on board with all of those thoughts. Right. It's like if they bring Giannis in and they sit Giannis down and they go, Giannis, what do you want at the deadline? What do you think he says? Does he say, I want another all-star player with me? I want another star to play with me? I had Middleton. I had Holiday. I had Lillard. I need another star. And with all due respect to Miles Turner averaging 12.5 points a game, he's not exactly getting the job done at the end of the day. I just wonder whether or not Miles Turner is a guy that's on this roster next year, or if at some point next offseason you see Miles Turner get moved to somewhere else next offseason. Especially if he doesn't play any better.
I would think he's probably a guy that is definitely a candidate to be on the trade block, be on the cut block with all that money that's being given to him. I think this is a scenario where the Bucks really do have to keep trying anything that they can. And the Miles Turner experiment hasn't worked out as well as some people had hoped. Again, I think a lot of people also had really high expectations for Miles Turner that was probably higher than they should have been coming into this situation with Giannis. And because of that, he still deserves a little more time to prove it, but I'm not going to be surprised if he's not on this team next year.
I think people were definitely hyped up more than they should be, me included, even though I knew damn right well what they were getting. Because again, when Miles Turner played for the Pacers, I always said, let him shoot threes. Don't go running out after him. Let him shoot him. He's going to miss more than he's going to make. Who cares? If he gets hot, if he hits 2 or 3, then fine. Then go out there. But otherwise, believe it when you see it. Until you see it, just dare him to shoot threes. I'd rather have him out there than playing around the rim. And again, not that we've seen it. Everything the Pacers fans said Miles Turner is what Miles Turner has been for the Milwaukee Bucks. And that is why they laughed at the amount of money that was given to Miles Turner. With that being said, let's switch gears.
It's time for your green and gold update on Wisconsin Sports Daily, powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook on the Wisconsin Sports Radio Network with Steve Sparky Pfeiffer.
Still to come, we're going to talk with Jack Stern, BrewerFanatic.com, about the staff changes with the Milwaukee Brewers. He'll join us coming up in the next segment. Things that Sparky missed, brought to you by the Milwaukee Admirals, comes up at 4:40, 4:45, somewhere in that area. Want to get some of these clips in here from Matt LaFleur, Packers head coach, who talked earlier today. One of the things that came up was talking about this offense and things that need to be fixed before they take on the Bears on Saturday.
You got to finish. You got to score touchdowns in the red zone, and that's the bottom line. I think it doesn't. You can move the ball in between the 20s all day long, but you have to finish drives, and you can't have, just every play is so pivotal down there. You can't have any mistakes. There's no wasted plays. It just sets you behind the sticks. And I mean, that's not where you want to be against this defense.
If we did a topic, maybe we will do the topic tomorrow. If we did a topic, why do you think the Packers have struggled in the red zone this year? Where do you think a majority of the blame would lie?
Matt LaFleur.
Absolutely.
Probably.
No question. And it's funny when he says that, because in my mind, the follow-up would be, of those red zone issues of not getting the ball in the end zone, how much of that comes back to you calling the right plays? I wonder what he would say to it, because the answer probably has to be a lot. Now, in some situations, maybe it's an offensive lineman gets beat on a block. Otherwise, they would have had that play. A holding call happened. Otherwise, they would have had that play. Or there was a false start that put us behind the sticks. And those type of self-inflicted wounds that screw up what he's trying to do. But I think for the most part, people would probably look at the red zone struggles and say, this is on you, coach, more than it's on anybody else.
Yeah, I think that it is a bigger share of him. But at the same time, the run game in the red zone has just been atrocious. Like
horrible.
This team can't move the ball when it's on the ground in the red zone.
Dude,
they have to
anywhere on the field. If it's 4th and 1, how confident do you feel?
I'm not confident at all.
Not at all.
I guarantee the defense stops it. Like that's how
We're
it feels.
They're going to run shotgun, inside zone, and they're going to get stuff.
It just doesn't work. And I don't think that's all on Matt LaFleur there either. I think the offensive line and the running back room just hasn't been able to get the same kind of push that they got last season in that spot.
Correct. And that's a big issue. And when you get down to the red zone, those teams that have Derrick Henry and Saquon Barkley and these guys, yeah, they're in a much better position.
Got a lot bigger of a playbook.
Correct. Because there is a threat of a run, and you can't just throw it out in the trash. When you play the Packers down there, I don't know how concerned you really are at this point. Yes, Josh Jacobs finds the end zone. No question. But when you get inside, again, the red zone's 20. Once you get inside the 20, how often are they really handing off the ball versus throwing the ball? I'm sure there are stats somewhere that you could find on that. But to me, it feels like they're throwing it more than they're running it, especially from a success rate. They're more successful throwing it than they are running it down there.
Well, and the other problem is, though, at the same time, too, is in their pass game, yeah, some teams can still survive in the red zone without that style of run game, but then they have a big body wide receiver that's consistently in that spot in the red zone. I think I look at Tampa Bay as an example of that. When you have a Mike Evans that can constantly be there for you,
that should be Watson.
It makes it really easy, but Watson's not consistently that guy. A, he's not on the field all the time, and B, his play style, really, it feels like it changes every single game. You get a different style of Christian Watson, which is cool, but sometimes you just need him to be that big body guy, and he's not always that.
I've got an interesting stat here. Let me see if I can call it up quickly on Christian Watson and Jordan Love. Now, those of you that want to bang on Jordan Love are going to absolutely love this stat. Those of you that think Christian Watson is a stud, this will just help your argument. This was on, or is on, I should say, ESPN as well. Jordan Love with Christian Watson and Jordan Love without Christian Watson, it appears different quarterbacks at this point. When all is said and done. The Packers didn't have a single receiver with more than 55 catches, 724 yards, or 6 touchdowns in 2025. Okay? That's probably not good. Watson missed the first 6 games. Okay, fine. How about this? Love's QBR is 77.7 when Watson is on the field, 69.5 when he's not on the field. His completion percentage over expectation is 5.5% when Watson's on the field, 2.5% when he's not, per Next Gen Stats. His touchdown to interception ratio is 5.5 to 1 with Watson. When he's not on the field, it's only 3 to 1. In the 10 weeks in which Watson has played, Love's QBR of 76.7 is the second best in all of the NFL, behind only Brock Purdy. I mean, those numbers don't lie. Christian Watson is your one, and is Jordan Love's one specifically when you talk about how well this offense runs.
I think that says more to me about the rest of the wide receiver room than Jordan Love, if I'm being completely honest, especially the way we've been talking about Matthew Golden the past couple of weeks here and him not being able to get into that rotation.
By the way, Quicks is in concussion protocol, so don't even know if he's even going to play on Saturday.
So we may have to find a way to get Bo Melton back on that side. Maybe we'll try a different cornerback at wide receiver. That's how kind of dire it feels sometimes. But then other times you see a Romeo Dobbs have a great game and a Jaden Reed have a great game. Yep. That's what makes it so frustrating, is that right now it feels dire when it shouldn't, because those guys have proven in the past that they can do it. So just do it consistently.
Matt LaFleur talking about using their last loss to the Bears to avoid making the same mistakes in Game 3.
We always kind of just talk about some of where our focus needs to be and things that we have to do better, and just what the opposition is going to present.
With how that ended, did you sense the same amount of resolve and disbelief over how that went as you showed that?
No, I think that's in the past. I think there's nothing we can do about that. We just got to look to the future.
Okay, so this is the thing. Talking about how that game ended and so forth. I mean, the answer is that he should have had, that he didn't, because he avoided it, was, hey, if we have self-inflicted wounds like we did the last time we played them, we're going to lose again. Quite simple. And in fact, if we have self-inflicted wounds, no matter who we play in the playoffs, in a playoff game, we're going to lose. It doesn't matter who the opponent is. If we get by Chicago and we go to the next round and we play like we did in that second game against Chicago, we're going to lose whoever the opponent is. When you get to the postseason, you cannot have self-inflicted wounds like that and expect to win playoff games. So the answer to your question is, yeah, we know everything that went wrong. And yes, we know we can't have that happen in order to win. That's the answer. That's the answer. Instead of, well, that's behind us. Oh, fine. But at the end of the day, it was a legitimate question, and that probably should have been the answer.
Well, and I feel like there should be something in you, too, that remembers that. It can't just always be, oh, it's behind us, oh, it's behind us. Again, we talked about earlier in the show the way that the Bears are approaching this matchup and the way they've approached it all season with this kind of fire beneath them is because they have storylines behind it, because they feel like they deserve this at this point. The Packers need a little bit of fire, too, and that's a perfect way to get that fire going by making them remember that play, because that play did suck. As somebody that was watching it from a Packers perspective too, that did not feel good. It felt good from a Bears fan.
But there was more than one play in that game. Mm-hmm. There were several plays. You had a fumble. You had all kinds of problems in this football game that led to them losing.
You don't have to look back at all of those, but you got to lock it in on something, on the feeling that you felt at the end of that game in order to get you going for this game.
Good news. They felt that way for the last 4 games. It's been a month since they know what it's like to win. You don't have to lock into the feeling of what a loss feels like to only the Bears game. You have a month of losses straight before you don't even know what it likes to feel like to win again. Now, the good news is the Bears have lost 2 straight too. So it's been a minute. Packers' last win was the Bears. Bears' last win was the Packers. So we go from there. Matt LaFleur talks about, does it matter that you have more playoff experience than Chicago?
Yeah, I think there's some value in that. But ultimately, it's about just being able to go out there and kind of channel your emotion and go out and execute. So the team that typically can do that the best is probably going to be the team that wins the game.
I'll say this about Caleb Williams. Being at USC helps moments like this, I think, for him, as far as being in bigger game situations, all eyes on you and so forth. He's done nothing but play in big games from high school through college. This isn't a situation where I think he's going to potentially, I don't think, maybe he will. I don't think he's going to come out nerves abound and all of a sudden have like a 4 interception game and look nothing like himself. Could he come out and be timid early on? Maybe. I would guess that first drive they get, there's probably a high success rate on them scoring the football at the end of the day. They're probably going to score. They may not get 7. They'll probably get 3. But I if they don't go down the field on that first drive, if they go 1, 2, 3 punt, Ben Johnson may throw something, because you cannot, if you're the Bears, be in a position to be chasing again. Yeah, you overcame 10 points in the closing minutes of that last game. You can't put yourself in a position where you're going in the fourth quarter and you're down 14 or 21. That's going to be awfully hard to come back from, regardless of who the pass rushers are for the Packers.
If there's one thing I think nobody can deny about Caleb Williams is that he's confident. He's going to go in and just be who he is and play his style of game, and that's it. It doesn't matter what anybody says about him. He's just going to be him. And I think that is something that the Packers have to be wary of. And again, try to make him uncomfortable as much as possible, which is going to be hard to do with the personnel you have on the field. But some of these guys have to take their game to that next level.
If you are streaming us on X and on YouTube at WI Sports Radio, hello. Continue to chat away in the Dugout YouTube chat like so many of you are doing. Also, don't forget you can stream the show at wisportsradio.com. Also, go back, find any of the interviews you may have missed. All the podcasts are available, as well as anywhere you download your favorite podcasts at. Coming up after this quick timeout, we'll change gears. We'll go to the Milwaukee Brewers. Jack Stern, BrewerFanatic.com, has a great piece out today talking about all of these different changes amongst the Brewers coaching staff and reasons for them. I think it was very well done, and we'll talk to him about it coming up next. It's Wisconsin Sports Daily, served up by Wendy's, live from the Wisconsin Sports Radio Network studios, powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook. Sparky with you. Welcome back. Wisconsin Sports Daily, served up by Wendy's. Getting ready for the Green Bay and Chicago game this Thursday as the Wisconsin Sports Radio Network broadcasts live from Green Bay, baby. 9 to noon with John Kuhn and Rami Makloff, and the Mason Crosby Show with Mitch Thunder Nelson will broadcast from Margarita's Mexican Food and Cantina right there, just 2 blocks from Lambeau Field and Lombardi Avenue. Come hang out with the guys from the Wisconsin Sports Radio Network again this Thursday from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. at Margarita's Mexican Food and Cantina. It is going to be an absolute blast. I'm looking forward to that one. Some breaking news in the NFL before we get to Jack Stern of BrewerFanatic.com. John Harbaugh out as Baltimore Ravens head coach. He is done. Charlie and I were having the conversation of Harbaugh or LaFleur. Who would you rather have in that situation? We'll dive more into that on Things Sparky Missed coming up at 4:40 and have that conversation. Also, John Morton, to nobody's surprise, fired as offensive coordinator for the Detroit Lions. It will be very entertaining to me to see who is hired next to try to replace Ben Johnson. Try number 2 from Dan Campbell and company. And I'm willing to bet you it will be a failure just like John Morton was.
Yeah, I bet it's probably going to be some like young and hotshot guy because they're going to want to go back to that, see if they can get another Ben Johnson.
Kingsbury's out there.
Could go and get him.
Just got let go.
Kind of fits the bill there.
Sure does. Would not surprise me if Kingsbury's the guy. Moving on to the guest hotline powered by Gruber Law. One call, that's all. You can see him right there on X and on YouTube at WI Sports Radio as we live stream this bad boy. Jack Stern, BrewerFanatic.com. Follow him on Twitter at @ByJackStern. Jack, how are we doing today, buddy?
I'm doing pretty good. Baseball's getting a little bit closer every day, so I got something to look forward to now.
Baseball is getting closer a little bit every day. And speaking of baseball getting closer a little bit every day, I don't know if you heard the Ken Rosenthal report or not earlier today on Foul Territory, but let me play it for you.
While all the big market teams seem to be in on him, there are small
Freddie
market
Peralta.
teams as well that can certainly afford Freddie Peralta at $8 million and are at least in contact with the Brewers. I would expect that if he is traded, and I do believe he will be traded, I said that on Fair Territory yesterday, I believe, then they will get in excess of what they acquired for Corbin Burns. And remember, that was Joey Ortiz, who was their starting shortstop last year. Admittedly, not a good offensive player. DL Hall, a lefty with still some promise, and a draft pick that has not panned out for them just yet. But the reason Peralta is even more attractive than Burns, he might not be quite as accomplished, of course, but he's making half as much money as Burns was. And at the end of the season, if you like him, you can hit him with a qualifying offer and then get one of the prospects back as draft pick compensation. So maybe he won't get as much as Burns. Maybe I overstated that, but I can see where he could bring them even more. And the price of the salary, the cost is the reason for that. He's so much cheaper and you do get the pick back. So that was the case with Burns too, but I just think that Freddie Peralta, if he goes, he's going to go for a nice haul for the Brewers.
Jack Stern of Brewer Fanatic, in your mind, can you justify moving on from Freddie Peralta and then in the next breath telling everybody you're competing to try to win a division?
Depends on when you get back for him, right? I think if you get back multiple pieces who are going to plug right into helping your 2026 roster win games, I think you can justify it. Now, to kind of go back to what Ken was talking about there in that report, when he talked about how Freddie would fetch a bigger return than what the Brewers got for Corbin Burns, I think that needs to be the case to be able to say, yes, this is helping us for 2026. Corbin Burns, the Brewers got 2 players back who you can kind of have a debate on how impactful they've been. I think Freddie Peralta, you need to be looking for a better return. Burns got you 2 guys who were kind of right on the outskirts of the top 100 prospects in baseball at the time that they were prospects. I think, Freddie, you got to shoot a little higher. You got to look for 2 guys who are probably in that top 50, maybe a starter who can plug right into that rotation right now to take Freddie's spot in the rotation. Probably a guy who you can plug into regular playing time or semi-regular playing time in that lineup somewhere. Then I would say probably another prospect or 2 who fits nicely into your system, and then maybe some kind of draft pick compensation on top of that. I think you have to set the bar pretty high for Freddie Peralta, and knowing how much he means to the Brewers and having been in that clubhouse and seeing how impactful he is there, I would expect that they have a much higher price tag on him than they did when Corbin Burns was in a similar situation approaching free agency.
I don't want him moved. I want everything to stay the same, and let's take another run at this bad boy and see what happens. Now, having said that, if you're telling me I'm getting a starting pitcher back to plug into the rotation for Freddie Peralta, then why in the world is that team making a trade for Freddie Peralta and then trying to sell me on the fact that this guy's going to come and replace for Peralta, even though they just traded for Peralta? Like, that doesn't make any sense. They're deeper in the starting rotation than most teams in Major League Baseball as far as what they have. I mean, right now they're 7, 8 deep, probably in that starting rotation with viable arms that could start in rotations around Major League Baseball at this point. So if I'm trading Freddie Peralta, and I know I sound like a broken record, you listened to me all of last year, it has to be for a power bat somewhere in that lineup that can come in and play. Somebody that's going to hit 25 or 30 home runs and help that offense. If I'm not getting that, I'm not interested in trading Freddie Peralta at this point.
I think you got to think about it in terms of what are the Brewers just going to get in terms of overall value in return. I think you got to think of it a little more broadly as opposed to we need to plug X need with this move right here, because whenever the Brewers are making these kinds of trades, it's because they feel that by doing that, when you add up what they're going to get in 2026 from those pieces and beyond, they think that they're going to come out more favorably than the team that's maybe taking on Freddie Peralta just for 2026 because they think Freddie Peralta makes them better for 2026 and they'll figure out the rest later. So I think to get the best possible return to fit both now and moving forward, I think you just need to look at what's out there, and you need to look at each of these pieces that teams are offering and say, okay, how is this guy going to fit not only right now, but moving forward, and what other options are available to us as well. So maybe they do move Freddie Peralta and you don't get the power bat, but do the Brewers think that they either have someone else in the pipeline who can fill that role? Do they think that there's another move they can make that gets them the power bat? I think you've heard me talk about it, Sparky. I'm very firmly on the train of they need more power. That's still my biggest complaint with this team. And I think, no question, it's a thing they're missing. They're very, very well-rounded in every other facet of the game. But if you're going to get a good power bat, maybe you're better off just not tying that to a Freddie Peralta trade. Maybe you keep your options open and say, okay, maybe Freddie isn't going to get us this power bat in this return.
Jack Stern, 1 year for Suarez, and Andrew Wagner better run for the hills. That's all I have to say. I get Suarez on a 1-year deal. He better run for cover from me because I will be just losing my mind if something like that's going to happen. They're not going to do it. He's not going to sign a 1-year deal. But I was just having some fun. Jack Stern, BrewFanatic.com. Follow him on Twitter @ByJackStern. Let's talk about these coaching changes. You had a great piece up that people can go read right now at BrewerFanatic.com. An excellent website. Lots of great writers on that website to go check out. We went over the coaching changes yesterday. I wasn't thinking in depth like you were as we were going over them. I first want to start off with the one coach that no matter who it is will become the most hated man on that staff every year, and that is the third base coach. Nobody ever likes the third base coach. People didn't like Ed Cedar. People don't like Jason Lane. And now Matt Erickson is going to get his chance to try and win people over at the same point. Your thoughts, was Jason Lane that bad that they had to move him out of third base?
No, I think you're going to be frustrated with whoever's over there. And I think a lot of third base coaches are kind of going off the same sort of scouting information and knowing the outfielder, knowing the guy who's running, knowing all that kind of stuff. It's a percentage play when you're deciding, are you going to hold a guy up at third base? Are you going to send him home? Pat Murphy has spoken very, very highly of Jason Lane over the past couple of years that he's been on this coaching staff. And I think what people need to realize too is Jason Lane's not getting fired from being the third base coach. He got a promotion. He's actually going to be even more involved in the team's strategic side of game planning and all that kind of stuff. He's going to be taking on more responsibilities. He's not.
But realistically, Jack, that's great. But realistically, if we don't see him, nobody looks at it as a promotion. You aren't at third base anymore. Somebody else is. That's who we see. He'll be in a front office or traveling around the country or doing whatever he is. And that's fine. They keep him in the organization. I wanted to ask you, when we talk about this coaching staff, Matt Erickson goes to third base. Okay, fine. The idea of Pat Murphy not having a bench coach, which he said he wasn't going to do when they decided to move Ricky Weeks with inside the organization. Now the staff comes out. He still doesn't have a bench coach. Does that worry you at all or no?
Well, when you talk about the way that this staff is going to be constructed, they said a lot of different guys are going to kind of combine to take on the bench coach roles. And to come back to Jason Lane, like offense and strategy coordinator, he's still going to be in the dugout. He's probably going to be doing
the bench coach stuff
kind of in that kind of role. I think that just with the way baseball coaching staffs are these days, they're bigger than they used to be. The roles are way more specific than they used to be. I think what they're doing here is I think they're just trying to put guys into more of these specific specialized roles where they can do what they do best, and then they all kind of work together and bring each of those things to the table, and that kind of combines to make up all of these responsibilities that you might have seen previously assigned to one guy. So I'm not really worried about the way that they're doing this. I think as long as you have the right people researching the right things, game planning the right things, the right people on the bases, making the base coach decisions. If you have the right people in the right situations and in the right kind of capacities, I don't really care what you call them. I don't care what their titles are. I don't care how many guys are on your staff. If you have smart guys doing the right jobs, I think things are going to work out for you.
Let's talk about first base. Spencer Allen. You can tell us who Spencer Allen is. He is the new first base coach now for the Milwaukee Brewers. How big of a deal is that change at first base?
So that one's kind of interesting to me because, to not beat around the bush, the Brewers sucked at stealing bases last year compared to how they used to steal bases, and that was
and
also
the guy that was in charge went to Chicago to go help the Cubs.
Yes, so they had some change over there, and look, I don't know if Julio Bourbon was the guy to blame there, but coincidentally or not, they got a new first base coach, and their ability to steal second base got way worse. I asked Pat Murphy about it a couple times. He always attributed it to being more hesitant with their leads on first, being more hesitant with their first step on first base, being able to read the pitcher. That's stuff that Quentin Berry was known for. Really, really good at giving guys pointers on that stuff and kind of just tapping guys on the shoulder when they got to first base and saying, hey, here's what I'm noticing with this pitcher. Here's what you can look for, read this, and you can take off. It seemed like that was not there last year. So Bourbon's going to be moving into more of kind of a fluid front office-y kind of role where he's going to be helping out at a couple levels across the organization. And he's still going to be doing base running stuff. So it doesn't seem like the Brewers have lost confidence in his ability to coach that kind of stuff in some capacity. But when there's a change like this coming off of how they got worse in that department, it makes me wonder or speculate. Maybe they just think Spencer Allen, who has more of a college background, has a base running background, maybe they just think he's going to be a better messenger for some of these guys than the way things went last year. But I think either way, one of his top priorities needs to be, we got to get better on first base. And this is a team that, especially if they're not going to slug, they got to be really good at stealing second base to create extra bases. So it's something that has to get better. It's something the Brewers said they're going to continue to focus on. Now they have a new guy in that first base coach's box, and I'm curious to see if that's going to lead to some positive changes there.
Jack Stern, BrewerFanatic.com. Great piece up right now talking about all the coaching changes and what he reads into it of why they did different things. Follow him on X by Jack Stern. Or joining us here on the guest hotline, powered by Gruber Law. One call, that's all. Okay, let's talk about hitting coaches. I know I shouldn't be bothered by this, but it drives me nuts. Why the hell do they need 3 hitting coaches for? And this has been going on for several years. I mean, back in the day, there's one hitting coach. I went down to the ballpark for pregame. I talked to the hitting coach. Now you got 3 dudes all in charge of hitting. I mean, I think the common saying is too many chefs in the kitchen. Can that be the case when you got 3 hitting coaches?
I think it can. I think you need to be very careful about which responsibilities each of those guys have, how they're working together, how they feel about different things. And just to kind of shed some light on the way that the 3 hitting coaches thing has worked in the past, just to look at last year, for example, Al LaBeouf, who is also moving to more of a front office kind of role, he was the lead hitting coach. He was the one who, when I was at the ballpark, he was the one who was kind of outside the cage a lot, talking to a lot of guys. Eric Tyson was out there too. He's going to be the lead guy now. He was an assistant hitting coach. Connor Dawson, he was a little bit more behind the scenes. He was doing a lot of the game planning stuff with hitters, leading the hitters meetings, scouting reports, all that kind of stuff. So I think if you look at it that way, where different guys are doing different aspects of it, I think that can work. I just think you need to be careful you can't have all these guys who are trying to do the exact same job. And if they have competing messages,
correct.
Yes, it can throw guys for a loop. So I do think that's a valid concern. You got to be very, very careful with the way that these guys are doing their jobs. And that kind of comes back to what I said before of, I don't care how many guys you have. I don't even care so much what their official titles are. I just care that you have everybody knows what their job is and they're able to do that job well in a way where they all make each other better. And I'm very curious to see how they kind of delegate which of these still 3 hitting coaches, but a different group of 3, which guy is doing what.
Daniel Vogelbach. It's got a lot of buzz, man. People are excited Vogelbach's back in the organization. I'm excited Vogelbach's back in the organization. That's wonderful. But there has got to be some type of transition, I would think, that this dude's going to go through coming off of the playing field straight into a hitting coaching role, because I don't think he's coached before. And it's a little bit different being a coach versus being a player. Some guys are great at it. Some guys aren't. I mean, we've seen great baseball players be horrible as coaches. We've seen average to below average baseball players be awesome at coaching or being managers. So you really don't know what you're going to get at the end of the day. Your thoughts on bringing Vogelbach back?
Well, I think when, like you kind of alluded to, it's not so much how good you were as a player, it's how good of a communicator you are. That's going to be the biggest thing for being a coach. And the fact that Vogelbach is already pretty quickly climbing the coaching ranks. I mean, he got a job in Pittsburgh as a coach last year, immediately after retiring. And when he gets a job like that immediately, and then the next year he's an assistant hitting coach already, that's the kind of stuff that at least tells me that he's probably a pretty good communicator, and guys resonate pretty well with what he's talking about. And that's really all you can look for in a guy who is going to be coaching professional baseball, because all these guys know the game. They played it. And in his case, too, I wonder if there's some benefit to having a younger voice in the room, a guy who was hitting in modern baseball as recently as 2 or 3 years ago. Maybe there are just certain experiences or certain things that he can share with these guys that's going to be a little bit more relatable. So I'm really curious to see, number one, how he does it. And number two, like, where exactly does he fit in on this staff? We talked about, kind of different roles for different guys. Vogelbach was a guy who was known for his swing decisions as a hitter. The Brewers like to coach swing decisions. Maybe that's kind of his area of it that they put him into. I don't know. I'm just speculating, but it seems like he's a guy who has already gotten some pretty good reviews on his ability to just communicate with guys as a coach. And I'm very curious to see if that's what we see play out next year, or this year, I should say.
There he is, Jack Stern, brewerfanatic.com. Great stuff over there. A lot of great writers over at brewerfanatic.com. Follow him on Twitter at @ByJackStern. I don't know about everybody else, but there are several of us on this staff of radio hosts that are jonesing for some Brewers baseball right now. Like, let's go. I mean, I want spring training. I want baseball. I want to get going again. The way the season ended was kind of deflating, but you beat the Cubs, so it made it feel a little bit better. But you just feel like, man, this team, another year older for Jackson Chourio, another year of terrain. Like, it just feels like this could be that year they make a big run.
I think they're in a spot where they're bringing so many guys back from one year to the next, that we haven't always seen that, but it's happening now. And like, these guys are all at a point in their career trajectories where they should all be getting better. They should be getting better every year, not worse. So I think they're in a spot where they should feel pretty good about the core that they've got. It's just a matter of, how do you put it all together? How do you plug some holes around the edges? And then, like we talked about, like, how does this coaching staff impact these guys as well?
Jack Stern, brewerfanatic.com. Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Yeah, you got it, Sparky.
Take care. There he is. Check him out on Twitter by Jack Stern, on the Guest Hotline powered by Gruber Law. One call, that's all. Potawatomi Sportsbook, baby. 2,000 square feet. Potawatomi Sportsbook kitchen. Really, really, really good, right? Got to take advantage of that. Charlie was just over there. New Year's Eve, you were over there having the Potawatomi Sportsbook kitchen, right?
I had a Reuben that was delicious. My girlfriend had a wrap that was also delicious because I ate part of that as well.
Not surprising.
It was all great. It was all great. Got food service really fast.
Yep.
Awesome. And right there in front of the giant screen.
Yes. I had 30 different sporting events at one time, 48 beers on tap, dozen different specialty cocktails, homemade desserts and pastries as well. All day brunch. If you're into eating breakfast all day, they've got that going on at the Potawatomi Sportsbook kitchen. To reserve your seat ahead of time. There's 2 levels, but you still probably want to reserve your seat ahead of time with all the different stuff going on between the NFL playoffs, the college football playoffs, college basketball, NBA, NHL. So much going on to draw people down to the Potawatomi Sportsbook. Go to Potawatomi.com to make your reservations today. Think Sparky Miss, brought to you by the Milwaukee Admirals. Up next, Wisconsin Sports Daily, served up by Wendy's, live from the Wisconsin Sports Radio Network studios, powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook. Sparky here. Welcome in. It is Wisconsin Sports Daily, served up by Wendy's. Whether you're starting a new routine or making player picks for the first time, trying something new can be hard, but in life and on Prize Picks, it always feels good to be right. With high-pressure playoff matchups every weekend and elite hoops action almost every night, the action never stops. And Prize Picks lets you take control. Prize Picks, it's simple. It's daily fantasy. More or less is all you are doing on 2 or more player stat projections set by Prize Picks, right? So it could be Jordan Love coming up this weekend, more or less 1.5 touchdowns. It could be Josh Jacobs, more or less 75 rushing yards. Right now, all you're doing is going more or less. And then if you get them right, you win. Now, they've got the flex play, which means you can get one wrong and still win. They've got the power play, which really increases how much money you make if you get all of them right. Now, if you do power play, you get one wrong, you get nothing. If you do flex play, which doesn't pay out as much as power play, and get one wrong, you still cash. That's my preference. You can do what you want on your side. Plus, not only that, they offer stacks, which means now I can take, say, Jordan Love and do 3 different more or less projections with Jordan Love in the same lineup. How cool is that? Very cool. Only on Prize Picks. Can't do it anywhere else. Download the Prize Picks app today and use code SPARKY, SPARKY, to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That is code SPARKY, SPARKY, to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. If each lineup you play is $5, which is a common number that people play, that means you can play 11 times at $5 a lineup, and it's going to cost you $5. Now, why wouldn't you do that? It makes too much sense. Even if you don't know what you're doing, for $5, take a chance. You spend money on a lottery ticket, don't you? You got no control over that. At least on this one, if you're listening to us do these shows every day on the Wisconsin Sports Radio Network around the beautiful state of Wisconsin, you've got more control of getting this right than you do of buying a Powerball ticket, right?
I think so.
Yes.
Not always if you listen to Sparky, though. But
shut up. Download the Prize Picks app today and use code SPARKY to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, it's good to be right. Must be present in certain states. Visit prizepicks.com for more details.
What story did Sparky miss talking about today on Wisconsin Sports Daily? Don't you worry. Sparky's got you covered now. Don't miss Milwaukee Admirals hockey this season. Don't just buy tickets. Invest in memories at MilwaukeeAdmirals.com.
All right. This happened while we were doing the show right there before we got Jack Stern on. And I teased that I would like to talk about this coming up. John Harbaugh let go as the Baltimore Ravens head coach after 10 years in Baltimore, shown the door. Now, a lot of times there is a belief, I think, amongst NFL people that 10 years is a long enough run for any one coach and one voice. Regardless of who the coach is, normally after 10 years, your time is probably up. And that's why when you see guys like Andy Reid and Mike Tomlin staying in one place for that whole time, talks about their success and talks about the loyalty that they have from ownership and letting them continue to work through a down year here or there or whatever and continue to go forward. Tomlin doesn't have losing seasons. That's just not something Mike Tomlin does. Andy Reid just goes to Super Bowls with Patrick Mahomes, so he doesn't have to worry about that either. Harbaugh has had some up and down a little bit, but a lot of success. And the question that I threw out there before we had Jack Stern on from BrewerFanatic.com was, if I give you Matt LaFleur and I give you John Harbaugh now, when the Packers season is done, if you're Ed Policy, do you look at John Harbaugh and go, that's a better option than what I have right now? Or he fits more of what I want out of my head coach than Matt LaFleur fits out of what I want out of my head coach? What say you, Charlie?
I think it depends on what happens in this playoff game. I think he's going to look at that and say, you know what? This is a situation where it just doesn't feel like the Packers went into that game with the same energy the Bears did. Or it looks like he didn't go out there with a majority of his offense healthy and really take the top off and help win this game with his offense. Yeah, I think you kind of have to look at that situation. The only difference is, though, is that John Harbaugh is not going to last that long. There's going to be other teams that have coaches on thinner ice than Matt LaFleur that are going to make decisions to try to get that guy.
Absolutely. And if you're any team that has a job opening right now, you want to talk to John Harbaugh at this point to bring him in. The idea of a Harbaugh coaching the Packers just gives me, like, I can't. I mean, like even though he's Jim's brother and he's nicer and more normal than Jim, I still don't think I want John Harbaugh coaching the Packers. I honestly don't think Ed Policy is moving on from Matt LaFleur, regardless of what is out there right now. I really don't. And I'm seeing everybody, even on the Nicolay Law Talk text line, fire LaFleur now, hire John Harbaugh. Hire John Harbaugh. Brett's right there in the dugout YouTube chat. What does he got to say?
He says, do you trade Matt if you can get Harbaugh or Stefanski, not just Harbaugh?
Yeah, I mean, that's another option too, right? So if a team comes to you and says, hey, man, we'll give you a first and a third round pick for Matt LaFleur, and then you sign Harbaugh or Stefanski, who got let go by the Browns yesterday after not winning many games the last couple of years, but was successful 2 of the 3 years previous to that, I believe, with Coach of the Year deals. I don't know. I don't have an answer to that. I just, my fear factor in all of this is getting somebody in there that's on the same page with Jordan Love, a play caller that he trusts and believes in that can keep this offense going in the right direction. I don't believe John Harbaugh is that guy. John Harbaugh's offenses, he consistently moves through offensive coordinators. That's the one area where they've struggled. And you can blame it from them not drafting really good at wide receiver, for them not really helping out Lamar Jackson enough at wide receiver, whatever you want to blame. It just really hasn't worked. So that concerns me with Harbaugh. Stefanski would be a play caller. So that makes me feel a little bit better if you were to go in that direction, if you were going to trade Matt LaFleur and then bring Stefanski in to be the play caller. He's also shown the ability to bring in defensive coordinators that have been effective and good, and a physical style of defense, regardless of who it's been over the course of time. So that would make sense too. But I'm not trading Matt LaFleur. If this is going to be a conversation, I need at least a 1 and a 3. I may need a 1 and a 2. And it doesn't have to be in the same year, but it's got to be at least a 1 and another good pick to supplement what you lost in Micah Parsons if you're going to trade Matt LaFleur. And then how does Jordan Love react to that?
You got to recoup at least one of those picks. And Kevin Stefanski's given up the play calling duties a couple times since he's been in Cleveland. So is he really that good of a play caller?
Again, back to Matt LaFleur we go. It's Wisconsin Sports Daily, served up by Wendy's, live from Wisconsin Sports Radio Network studios, powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook. Enjoy the rest of your nights. Coming up next, Wisconsin Sports wrap up here on the Wisconsin Sports Radio Network. Have a good night, Wisconsin.